Good evening, everybody. We are reconvening our budget meeting from April 25th. Now we are reconvening. I do want to look at the minutes, any corrections or additions to the minutes from last meeting.
I think I would like to say that when I made a motion that the documentation be provided on the interest earned, what I meant was the foundational documentation. Bank records, something to show interest earned.
What does it say in the minutes?
This is that documentation be provided on.
Well, documentation and what? Another word?
Documentation. The foundational documentation would probably be the actual foundation.
Did you actually say that at the time, or is that just what you want to say now?
Well, I made it clear at the time, I wanted the bank records to be brought. So
Okay.
with the bank records, documentation in the form of bank records is what I had said.
Okay.
Review.
Yeah, we'd have to review the recording.
Okay.
in order to make
Because I wanted to see the actual bank statements showing the interest earned. And we actually had that money.
So noted, and they will review the minute, they'll review the reporting.
I don't
And
know any other issues.
change accordingly if that's appropriate. Any other additions or corrections? There's a motion to approve.
We can motion to approve the last minutes.
Subject to
Subject to any correction that they find on the recording regarding the bank records.
That's fine, me, I'll second it.
All approved? Aye. Opposed? Okay. We had questions submitted, and I think Gloria has come up with some responses and that. So, Gloria, you want to?
Sure. Can I please make a comment? Yes, so I want to disclose that I have a potential conflict. My husband is a City of St. Helens employee police officer. I've already contacted and been in contact and have written correspondence with the executive director of the Oregon Ethics Board on the ability to participate, vote in all these discussions with that disclosure, and I provided the email last time for record.
Right, so that is noted, potential conflict, it will be put in the minutes. Thank you.
So, we distributed the Q&A. There was no additional to that. For the sake of time, do we want to go through the Q&A here? Or has everybody had a chance to go through those?
I think I would like to go through it.
Yeah, I would
We're
think-
here.
Yeah, I think it should form, I'm not sure, I think it should form a foundation for discussion from.
Okay. All right, so question one. We'll get data on police overtime. It's a big number. Counselor Chilton asked if the new officers would reduce it. And we get the dates and times when it was incurred. And so I attached that information. Like this. Shows all of the overtime.
We all receive it electronically also.
Yes. And then ideas on how to reduce that. So this is from the police chief. The short answer to reducing the overtime usage is to increase the police staffing, hire more officers. 14 patrol officers are needed to provide 24/7 response to 911 calls. We have a total of 21 sworn officer positions. 4 are administrative/detective, often fill in to accommodate staffing shortages. 2 are in training, unable to be used until they complete training. 2 are off duty on medical leave and light duty. And/or light duty. After accounting for the above, our staffing level is 13 sworn officers and sergeants. The collective bargain agreement between the city and the St. Helens Police Association mandates a minimum of 2 police officers to be on duty at all times. The CBA language and our police policies mandate a minimum of 2 police officers respond to the majority of 911 calls to ensure officers remain safe. We use overtime officers to fill staffing shortages and ensure we can answer 911 calls. In addition, overtime meets the mandated training requirements, vacation time, sick time leaves, sick leave time, mandated court subpoenas, FMLA time, and community events. The demand for police services has increased, but our staffing levels have remained the same, ultimately increasing overtime usage. The 2012 staffing study identified the need for 27 patrol officers. To reduce overtime use, we would have to increase our police staffing. Question 3, what is your best estimate?
We, I think we should, I'd like to do discussions as we go through them. Unless you want to, I'm going to read them all, then when you want to read them all and then do discussion, when do you think we should do discussion? That's when we do discussion.
We can ask questions as we go, since it's right in front of us.
Okay. So I do think that this is a good spring off point regarding our contract with our police. Collective bargaining agreement that was entered into in March of 2020 that extends from July 21, 2020 until July, I think it's maybe July 1, 2025. So this contract will be renegotiated next year. And I'm only bringing this up as discussion points for us to figure out. Police are by far the largest point of our general fund. And there was a negotiation that took place where in a collective bargaining atmosphere, the city obligated itself in 2020 to pay the contract price that was negotiated at that time. And we are being asked to continue to increase the budget and to increase staffing. I did not get a chance really to drill down this overtime document. I tried to get through it to get some kind of pattern. It's $309,199 in overtime so far this year. And I've also looked at some other information about the police and share that. And in particular. So I have not seen the 2012 document. And I tried to find it online. I was not able to get it. And so thinking that, if we decide to have another meeting, that might be something we wanted to look at on these staffing things. Because one of our biggest challenges is going to be funding the police. And I think that we need to, my opinion is that we made an obligation to the police, negotiated as a contract, we should try to honor. At the same time, we have a significant budget shortfall in the form of recurring revenues. Recurring revenues do not in any way come close to it. So I guess this is a roundabout way of saying we need to think about, are we going to want more analysis on overtime? Are we going to have a discussion about reducing overtime? Should we take another look at that 2012 study should we get an analysis of whether the police are potentially overstaffing? The police, Chief Greenway said this is what we need to staff. We can continue to drill down on it. I did see in Zip that the St. Helens police are the highest paid police in the state of Oregon. And we are paying $73,000 a year on average for officers.
That's not true.
Well, that's what ZipRecruiter says.
Well, ZipRecruiter is not a good source of information.
Yeah, yes.
I want to, let's limit this to questions on the numbers that were given us. And then the general discussion we'll talk about.
Okay, I mean, okay, so here's the bottom line on this. Our police appear to be well paid and there's a lot of overtime. And we need to try and figure out, are we gonna get a handle on this? Are we gonna give the police all the raises and incomes that they want? And if so, if we're talking seriously about giving the police the kind, if we path one is to look and see, okay, where's the fat and are we being asked to pay things that we should not be paying for? Do we do more analysis? And if the idea is we're comfortable with what the police say we should pay them, we need to be talking about revenue production for our people. Because we have an obligation under our budget principles to make sure that recurring revenues, meaning recurring expenses, and we need to be talking about what that means to our people so that our people understand the cost to them of the contract that is negotiated and in place. And that will be renegotiated next year. So I guess two-pronged. One, do we want to continue to try to cut through? Is there fat here? Number two, do we want to start talking about revenue production?
As part of the general discussion, that's,
Yes.
Gloria, I've got a question on overtime. As soon as 2 more policemen are put on the force, that's going to alleviate some overtime. The more people you would have, you'd have less overtime, right?
Yeah.
So the new.
I can't tell you
the
that.
Employees will take care of the overtime issue.
I don't know because it's not my department. The police chief would be the one to answer that.
I think,
Yes or no?
he said there were four people, so I think until we get 4 officers, there's still gonna be a higher.
There's always gonna be some overtime because they will have their shifts and everything. That's understandable.
But I think he said 4, that it would be,
I didn't hear it.
When they do get on, the number is gonna go down, so.
Yeah, correct. So what I recall is the fact that there's 2 that are gonna be retiring, right? The 2 coming on are gonna replace the retiring. So we're status quo basically at that point, right, with overtime. When we bring on the additional one, hopefully if the levy passes, then it will reduce the overtime. They're working copious amounts of overtime for staffing to backfill. I mean, it's sometimes like 13 days in a row. That's a lot of overtime. And it's to backfill those positions.
Well, I think if the levy passes, that's 2 positions, right?
4.
I don't see a lot.
Okay.
I don't see a lot of days in the row on some of these people. I mean, I see the 15th, the 31st, the 15th, the 29th, the 13th. I'm just sort of trying to go through.
Those are the pay dates.
Okay, all right,
So total overtime for that pay date.
thank you.
And I think that when we start comparing data, we have to do apples to apples, right? Like I know that that has been brought up or, about other adjacent cities that don't even have close to our population as well. That's why the chief keeps coming back and saying, we need a staffing study, a professional staffing study based on our city, our population.
I agree with that sentiment.
That doesn't get it done. Glassdoor doesn't get it done.
The last one that was done was in 2011 and it was not an official staffing.
It was Portland State. Right. I went through that one.
So I agree with that. And I agree that our city needs to be very well prepared next year for our negotiations. Last year, the negotiation resulted in a contract in March. I see our city being very much at a disadvantage when negotiating with our police union. I think our police unit is very prepared. I think they come in with a lot of facts and figures that are overwhelming. I think they managed to overwhelm this committee pretty well. And I think the city needs to be hiring somebody that can analyze the actual staffing needs of the city and be prepared to give the city advice in an advocacy type position. Otherwise, if some of these, Counselor Shelton says ZipRecruiter isn't true. I think they got good data.
Well, just to piggyback off of that, we increased our staffing. That was a huge thing for us to do that. We increased our wages for our police officers to be competitive with the cities around us, like Hillsborough and the metro area, which is where we're really competing with officers. And John, you could probably speak to this, where we were like number 3 or 4, we're right around the cities that are right around us right now for our wages.
Yeah, we had the contract term was, like you say, June 30, 2025. But midterm, about 3 years in, we were losing so many people out of their organizations, we opened it up and through a negotiation process and did a salary adjustment, and the council saw that and approved that to try to stop losing these people in those organizations, just recognizing the cost of that turnover process of getting new officers just because it's such a disruption, such an increase in overtime.
I think we can play a better game of poker.
They're getting the roof correct. What's that word? Why? They had mold in their building.
So, maybe.
It's like kind of impressive. Right. So again, we're not getting people that want to come to it.
Well, yeah, so what I can say though is that I would say this budget committee and the city council has done a lot. Since when I came in was 2.4 million. Okay, we had 16 officers, we had, at that point in time, we had an office person, we didn't have a code enforcement, we didn't have another office person. So we've added 4 more officers, a code enforcement and an extra office person. And 4 more officers, but we've increased it. We've increased it $3.2 million, we're at 5.6 this last year.
But we're not the highest paid.
So when I hear that we have failed them, it really kind of is like, man.
So we-
Well, I took it personally because I was personally attacked. You know what I mean? So,
I'm not saying anything.
but what I do know is those are the facts, and the budget does show that is the facts.
Mayor, do you happen to have, do you recall like the population of that time too? Like, is there a contract?
5,
Okay, so we've gone up a couple thousand.
couple thousand, yeah.
So-
2017, 2.4 million.
There is a lot of data online and Counselor Gunderson stated it, and I'm not trying to, there is data. The data I looked at, ZipRecruiter says we are 13.9% higher right now than the Oregon average. There are 5 cities that pay above the Oregon average. We are the highest paid average wage for our police in the state, higher than Hillsborough, higher than Bend. That's the data I saw. So,
It's not true, though.
well, I don't know what's true.
Cite your sources. ZipRecruiter,
ZipRecruiter.
that is not a valuable source.
So I think it's a valid point, Steve.
I'm sure they.
It's baiting for people to get a job. It's not.
Actually, I looked at that site pretty well. It looks like they data mine.
Well, I disagree.
I disagree.
Well,
So,
okay, so we were having a disagreement.
yeah,
So there's no way to resolve it, is there? Because we don't have anybody here to come in and say, I've looked at the data. I'm a reliable source.
John
This
has
is a
provided the
reality."
numbers for us when we did our wage increase.
no, there really wasn't any numbers on that.
Well, I remember seeing a graph, maybe it was the police chief that had the data of where we were at compared to the metro cities that were around us.
I mean, let's,
Yeah.
I have seen those numbers.
I definitely know we're not the high. I would agree that we're not the highest because, but I would. Yes, we were. 5th or 6th highest in the state.
today we were the highest.
5th or 6th highest in the state.
We were the first.
Okay,
And I'm only saying that because
I think that's worth looking at.
Thank you.
Dang, we should have people knocking down our doors
We
then.
should, huh?
I don't think we should have any open positions
Well, I
right
know-
now,
I
like,
know that-
why is there
I know
hundred and
for a
sixty-five
fact-
open?
I know for a fact that we're not any lower than 6.
And here, and so, and also the kind of the point is this, when somebody says, oh, people are gonna leave, it's like, well, you go right ahead, because you can go work in Portland and make less, you can go work in Bend and make less.
We
you
don't
go
wanna
here.
create that type of culture though
Yeah.
in this city. We want people to be here. We want people to feel comfortable. We want our employees to feel validated and valued.
Yeah,
We don't want it to be a threatening type thing.
Okay, so
Well, it's a negotiation.
the discussion back on task,
Yeah.
you're
It's
discussing.
a good discussion.
Okay, so according to the budget manual, I'm gonna read you a little excerpt here. Can the budget committee determine how much an employee is paid? The budget committee does not approve new personnel, employee contracts, or salary schedules, nor does it negotiate salary contracts. However, the adopted salary schedules and negotiated contracts and other materials that have a fiscal impact on the budget document may be requested for review by the budget committee. Through its authority, the budget committee may direct the administration to make dollar adjustments in the proposed budget.
There you go. So.
So not
But we're getting out the weeds.
specifically to
Salaries.
We're getting down the weeds a little bit.
Well,
So,
here's the discussion.
and contracts, because you have no authority over.
I'm not asking for us to, and I think what we're trying to do is figure out, okay, what do we do here? We actually look and see if we can cut something from the police requested, can we cut overtime? Can we cut expenses? Are we gonna take the time to figure it out? And, you know, there is an attitude from some here that, hey, we don't wanna have environment, whatever. And the flip side of that coin is, we need to tell our people, our attitude is that you will pay these police, and this is how much you will pay. And that number is something about $35 more on the water bill. That's the number on the water bill. So that's the flip side.
Right. So I've got a worksheet that we can work on later that will show you what the amount is for on the water bill for additional officers. We can do that.
Not additional, it's also so timber revenues are not recurring revenues.
Please hear me out, hear me out.
Look back, Lou.
So you can, as the budget committee, you can say, okay, police department, you're going to reduce your budget. We're gonna reduce your budget by such and such amount. You can't say it's gonna be in salaries. You can't say it's gonna be in the contracts. You can say personnel services, you're gonna cut your budget by this much. You're gonna cut materials and services by this much. That's what you can do.
And we can do a random, if we want, right? Like if we just decide, we could say, you know what, let's cut the police want a 1.5 million, let's give them 500,000, tell them make do with it, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that is what you can do.
that's our
That is your
goal.
role.
Yeah.
And then, or we could look at it further and make a further study and determine and see if, you know. we
That's
can
up
do
to the
that too.
governing body.
Okay,
But overtime can never be cut. That's not, I mean, if we hire officers, but we have to understand there's always gonna be a level of overtime. The police department, if they have to report, if they get call-ins, et cetera. So there's always gonna be overtime paid out.
I understand that's an opinion, and I happen to be running, I have, what's that?
It's facts, they have to show up for work. So if they're not on duty, go to work.
Yeah, you understand subpoenas, right?
I understand what you're saying, and I also run a business where I limit overtime,
You get
and
paid by the hour.
And, well, and I understand that, I don't believe that I'm gonna tell our citizens, and I'm talking about our people that are out here walking loud, that our people who tell me they can't afford another $20 on the month, and they can't afford another $30 on the month. That's what our people tell me. And I'm not gonna tell them, hey, guess what? You have to pay overtime.
You know what
There's no lowering it ever. I'm not gonna tell them
We
that.
got 4 pages of notes we gotta get through. Let's have a general discussion after this. So Gloria, would you continue?
I'm not, it's just,
We'll have a general discussion. We got all departments, we got other places where there's
All right.
further issues.
Well, anybody else want to say anything on this police thing before we move on to another shot? If you don't mind.
I just appreciate your insight.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, I do.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that needs to be looked at.
The only thing that I'd like to add is that the one thing I think is forgotten a lot is that a municipality is to provide police and fire, like that's public safety. And so like, it's not about, being out there and catching the good guys and the bad, the bad guys and all that. In most cases, in almost every single case, with the first responder, they're saving lives. That's what I care about. They're doing CPR, they're sustaining life, and that's what I care about. So what I don't want to tell the citizens is we made a decision and now your brother, sister, mother, uncle, aunt died while you were waiting for somebody to show up. So that's my personal
It'll be,
I think that it is a peer thing, and I think that,
It's a reality thing. I live in a reality.
I'm not sure about that.
let's see,
That's why we need an analysis.
next topic.
I think we have a very safe town.
Good police department.
Well, it's a pretty small town.
Number 3, what is your best estimate of the revenue collected in fiscal year 2022-23 from the public safety fee? $10 a month, charged to the payers of water bills, please. I think projected revenues are in the budget at $720,000. So in the audit, it's an actual number, it's not an estimate. On page 61, it shows $255,745 was billed. This is shown also in the proposed budget document on page 50. For fiscal year 2023, the rate was $3. It increased to $10 in August 2023. For fiscal year 2024, as shown in the proposed budget document, page 50, I estimate that $690,000 will be received. For fiscal year 2025, as shown in the proposed budget document on page 50, I estimate that $720,000 will be received. That's at the $10 rate.
Marshall, I'm sorry to ask this very late. Is Mr. Monahan at all going to be available for this call? Is, no? Okay, all right. And then, I wanted to chime in on this, just a couple of things. So first of all, it looks like for every $10 we can generate revenue $720,000. That's kind of the number that, so if we bump the water bill $10, it's another $720,000. $20, almost 1.5. So that's kind of we're gonna generating revenues through the water bill. And also I will say there's been a lot of discussion about whether putting money on the water bill is legal. The state of Oregon looked into this water bill thing, and I've looked at the Portland case. The Portland case, Portland has in their charter that all fees on water must go to water.
We can talk about it, yeah.
Yeah, so we do not have that type of limitation in our chart. We do have, as a city, a municipal utility, which is an asset of the city that can potentially be used to generate revenues. And then you would need to say, okay, I've also looked for challenges to municipalities for using municipal utilities. I've just searched for them. I haven't done an exhaustive search, but I haven't found any legal challenges. So, based upon what I've seen, there's nothing unlawful. There's no case, there's nothing that I've seen to say that this charge of $10 is illegal. Now, there are arguments always out there. Somebody, I'm sure, will raise them at some point. There are ways to do it. Our fees are attached to the payor of the water meter. So whoever is paying for the water bill is the payor of the $10. That's just food for thought.
Okay, number 4. Check with the water department regarding the approximate number of residential rental units currently being rented under business license in St. Helens? Can they estimate the total amount of revenue received for rental business licenses? If not, what tools would they need to get a handle on that number with an eye that the council may discuss imposing higher business licenses for rentals? The idea is possibly suggest a per unit charge for business licenses. Over fiscal year 2023, the total received for business licenses for rentals was $17,980. The per unit charge is $20. We currently have 895 units, and as soon as Broadleaf Arbor receives full occupancy, there will be an additional 239 units.
So one thing I wanted to bring up with this is that it's not the business license, but a while back, and I don't recall the exact date, I brought to council about a fee for service because the Arbor Leaf is the #2 client in St. Helens. I mean, the police are responding there almost daily, sometimes several times a day. And so a fee for service, a lot of other organizations use it. Forest Grove, you can go through and they have that where it's actually after a recurring fee or services there's a fee for it. It's a progressive fee. And so nothing has happened with that, but that would also probably help since they're using a lot of the services into the general fund.
That's and that's a good point because that is a mechanism that could be used.
Right.
And I'll add that the $10 fee that's currently on our bills, those are per unit, not per water meter. Those are per unit.
Use, right?
So they are effectively paying for some of those services in the public service. With that mechanism.
Right, so that's the one point about that brought up about the water fee or the water bill, the public safety fee on that is because each unit for the 895 plus the additional ones would be actually paying, for more into the general fund for the public service or safety fees, which they're not now.
So how would a fee for service work? Would it be just certain people that have to pay it? And how do you decide that?
I provided you guys, I think 25 different links for different municipalities that have this program already. So it's not recreating the wheel. A lot of them use them from Alaska to all over here in Oregon, that there's a fee for service. So it's basically habitual calls, right? And it depends on what it is. Like if there's a person crime, that just doesn't count, right? People want to respond, but it's the noise complaints, the dogs complaints, the arguing, all of that nuisance calls.
And they receive a bill in the mail.
And if you go back to that link I sent you, like I said, it's already created. They have programs out there and it's $150, starts getting $150 a call. And I mean, a lot of times, even the fire departments or police for having false alarms, they issue it up to $450 after the third call in Vancouver. So it's not in Oregon, but it happens all over the time and they do that for a reason.
Who pays?
Well, and it would be either the property owner or it would be the owner of the building. It's Broadleaf, and what it does do is encourage also, maybe some better screening on tenants or not renewing those leases for individuals that are causing those fees.
I
So
brought that up at the council meeting.
I brought it up maybe 4 months ago or something
I
like
brought
that.
it up also, but it was just crickets.
Well, the difficult thing is that this is the time you talk about things like that. Because the council deals with so many different things on a daily basis. Budget committee, this is the true time to talk about it with everybody.
They're simple, but there is some options out there that I don't know why. It's to me, it's leaving, food on the table when it's there are programs out there that would bring us a ton of money. No, but it also creates a little bit of a balance from police services too, when they're being utilized all the time over there. One call could be hours, locking up 2 people over there.
And it could be the mechanism for the management of that building.
Exactly.
Exactly, right.
So I don't think that's a bad idea. The reason we did adopt the $10 water bill at the time was because it does get spread out. Because we had modified our 2 ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units, basically. So duplexes that only have 1 water meter. We know both residents have the ability to call the police. And this spreads each unit that's available to call the police, at $10. So that is Arbor, Broadleaf Arbor is paying $28,800 a year towards the new police station. That is fair and just versus I, as a homeowner, am only paying $120. That is fair and just. And that's how we looked at this when we put this $10 fee in effect. Rather than try to get property tax, a levy, or not a levy, a bond on this. That would just affect property values. And unfortunately, it wasn't just because we knew this was a nonprofit. That it actually happened after the fact. This probably, if we did not have this mechanism in place, they would pay zero tax because they're a nonprofit. We get nothing from that Broadleaf Arbor. So they can at least be paying for the police unit. And I think Jennifer's idea of, excessive calls. We also have that on stores too. Walmart could be, if they're the biggest higher user, they get dinged for
False
that.
alarms.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually very common in other states too, and really we could set a precedence because a lot of these. Just saw it in Salem, they're gonna go up everywhere, so we are cities. How to deal with that.
Well, so there's a few comments I have on that. First of all, I think it's a good idea to explore. I'm not sure what the actual revenue potential is for that. Number one, people do manage their tenants and they stop having calls. Revenues go down. But I do like the idea of exploring it. I do think that there should be some, so I do think potential revenues need to be looked at, and then I do think that there needs to be an analysis done regarding risks to the city. Because when people are calling the police and then they're having to pay fines for calling the police, potentially, look at the other side of potentially how that may be challenged and refuted, and whether what's really going to be our end on that. I mean, I like the idea of looking into it, and I think it's kind of like a nuisance tax. I mean, if you have a problem property and you are generating a lot of city resources, I like the concept. And so I'm in favor of, generally exploring that in a careful way. And then I kind of want to add on to this because this was my thought on this. So in addition to that, which I think number one, when we do have people come to town and we have an institutional business that is managing a lot of units. We want them to be good neighbors. First of all, everybody wants anybody to come to St. Helens to not bring crime here. Public safety, we've got that in mind. We have a certain expectation of fellow citizens. And if these folks are not managing, they definitely need to have a check.
I think there's problems there. What was your other idea there?
And so the idea also really is to, people who have rentals pay a business license. The total business licenses in the city only generate $17,980 for rentals. If we raise the per rental charge from $20 to $240, that would bring in $272,160 a year. So it's not a ton. It's not going to make up for everything, but it is a way that we can pass along. We have this government. We have a lot of benefits to our citizens. We have a safe town. We've got police to pay. Mohammed gives his presentations. We are a town that spends a lot of money because it's nice here. We've got to fund that somehow. And so if we have institutional landlords here. Our is 239 units. There's another 895 units. And this will help spread the costs among businesses. 272,000, $240 a year. So that's like $20 a month. That would be passed on to tenants.
It's pretty common in other cities too.
Yeah.
Very common.
So I think that as part of our budget committee consideration, we should be talking about raising the per unit charge to $240 a year. And that would generate another 272,000, well, it would generate about another $250,000 a year in revenues. We need revenues.
So you're saying from 20 to 50, if you're talking from
$20 a year, it's 240 a year.
240 a year.
Which would be $20 a month. If you pass that directly to your tenant, it'd be $20 a month. That'd be the number.
Okay, let's hold that one to talk about revenue ideas. What else? Point on number 4. Okay, oh yeah,
Number 5.
5 and 6 are sort of, that's kind of a non sequitur. It's the chief's vested in his retirement, so.
go ahead and,
Skip.
Yeah, I could skip those too.
Did you bring them?
Yeah, I did. I figured out, the chief retiring, what do we do? And
You own them?
he's already retired.
If you own them and you want them marked off, holler as we go along.
Coloring 6.
Okay, down to 7 then.
Okay.
Please provide a breakdown of all GFSS expenditures and reasons for each charge. So I attached a I attached this sheet here. And this shows the breakout down of the percentages of each department and how they're
Yeah.
paid out.
I don't know if anybody else, that's all I wanted to see, so,
Okay.
yeah, I didn't have any other discussion on that, I'm not sure if somebody else asked that.
Okay, and then number 8. Please provide confirmation that legally with Oregon budget law, you wouldn't need a supplemental budget because the change, is less than 10% of the fund appropriations. So publication and public hearing would not be required if the city and budget committee wanted to add the levy revenue after it passes. So I dove into this a little more into the budget law. And it specifically says that you have to, let's read it. It's very important that the budget committee approve any proposed taxes as part of its approval of the budget. If a tax election is scheduled for March or May, the budget committee should include the revenue from any anticipated additional tax authority in its approved budget. Include the amount of additional tax being requested, even if the election has not yet been held. If the tax request passes, no revision to the budget is needed before it is adopted. If the measure fails, the budget can be reduced or another election scheduled. If the budget committee does not approve the new tax authority, then before the governing body can adopt a budget that includes it, the governing body must publish a revised budget summary that includes the new tax revenue and hold a second budget hearing on that budget. So that that's why I included the 800,000 as a revenue and an 800,000 as an expense. So it is contingent on the levy. You approve the levy as contingent on the election. If the election fails, then the budget that the council will adopt will be less that $800,000 revenue and less that $800,000 expense.
Is it typical to, this wasn't actually my question, but is it, I'll ask anyway, but is it typical to add it in there? Cause you saw the confusion, or you watched last night, right, the confusion, and that's what my issue with having this in here is the fact that when people are looking at it, and all of a sudden they're looking at, well, why do we have 28 people? And they're not obviously understanding that it's part of, there's, 4 more people. So I think that optics of that, I still go back to that just creates a lot of confusion. So why wouldn't it be just supplemental after the fact? Why wouldn't we choose to do that to keep it clear and concise?
Because if, in the budget law, we cannot appropriate, or we cannot levy a tax in a supplemental budget. We cannot levy an additional.
On that one, but I just wanted to actually.
And yes, it is normal to add those things into the proposed budget if they are anticipated. So in this case, if the levy were to pass and the budget committee has not approved that, we would have to do a special publication ahead of the adoption of the budget. Or if the budget committee doesn't approve the levy, then or approve the levy of the taxes as the motion says, and it goes to the council and it's not there, right? That levy is not there for the council. We would not, and it passed, we would not be able to levy those taxes until 2025.
So I was thinking about this as you're saying that, Gloria, and the way it makes sense to me is that if we did not budget for money and then we levied for it and got it, then that budget committee was not a part of the process of where that money is gonna go. I think that logistically is why they would do it like that. That's what makes sense in my brain, is because the budget committee needs to be a part of the process of where that money is gonna go.
Well, and then state that it's mandated that we have our money allocated before our fiscal year. That's what the importance of the.
Right, and the budget committee does that. And so if we got money and the budget committee didn't have a say on where that money is gonna go, then it's probably not following the law. That's the way it looks like to me when I'm thinking about it.
We're dealing with the levy piece on this, but what about like the sale of property or like the timber?
We haven't found the tax.
So, yeah, we can deal with that.
Yeah.
That is a good point. That's placeholder. That's it. One
Just
thing,
something I was thinking about as you were talking about it, so I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, and I don't know that wasn't my question actually, so I don't know if anybody else had to have any.
so, number one, I thought that you answered the question very well. And it looks like it's the appropriate thing to do, but that was a good question that came up. You know, should we have this in? Like, it should be something we should consider. I'm wondering when would be a good time to discuss Plan B? What if the levy doesn't pass? What does that mean to overall budget? What do we do?
That is part of the discussion after we get through the Q&A. That's what can be opened up for discussion.
Thank you.
Right.
9. Please confirm that the public comment on recreation being 200,000 deficient in grants is incorrect. Please confirm that expenses are 406,000, revenue from grants is 108,000, and fee revenue is 395,000. So total revenue is 395,000 with shared interest and potential miscellaneous revenue. That's easy to break even, correct? So the public comment referring to the $200,000 deficit in recreation is incorrect. For fiscal year 2025, grants are 210,000 and fees are 185,000, which will be an approximate $11,000 deficit.
By the way, that was my question on the other one. I just thought that was my question, so. I thought that was a note for myself, but I'm glad I asked it anyway, because it was good dialogue. Yes.
Glad you asked your question.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm like looking through my notes. I'm like, wait, that is, but I didn't think I actually asked it. I had it down, but this was my question on the recreation. So I wanted clarification on that because that was a big gap. So I wanted, and it came up in public comment. So thank you for clarifying that. All right.
Number 10. Please confirm that the public comment on timber harvesting that was cut in February was not already budgeted and is available to be utilized as revenue next year. Has this been allocated in two places? The $1.189 million shown in the fiscal year 2023-2024 estimated year end was received in the first half of the fiscal year. The $1 million in the proposed budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 is for harvesting authorized by council in February. Some of that revenue may be received before the end of the fiscal year 2024. However, it has not been allocated twice.
I figured out 11, so I'm good with that. That was my question.
Please confirm where Rachel Berry's wages were allocated from.
Okay with this.
Yeah, I already.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was looking.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, no,
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. You can speak up, but I'm
Sorry.
good. I figured that one out.
Okay. Number 12. Public Safety Fund, interest. All the interest in the past is shown in the budget since the beginning of the fund. That total is only $950,009, not $1 million. This plan appears to be stealing money from the Public Safety Fund. You, Gloria, I recall, also admitted you are taking Public Safety Fund money to supplement the general fund. It is my understanding the interest revenue was included in the original forecast to help pay down the debt. Is that not correct? If the aforementioned is not correct, please provide the specific inaccuracy. Now it appears you are taking $1 million. If you redid the forecast based on the $10 fee and now think you don't need that interest funds, why wouldn't you use the interest to create a lower monthly fee? At the end of the day, you're still taking money from the PD facility fund for the general fund. This seems deceptive to the citizens and the voters. So in answer, the first part, attached are the interest allocations. I estimate that accrued interest earnings in the Public Safety Fund as of June 30, 2024 would be $1.06 million. We had done a calculation during the fiscal year 2024 budget process to increase the fee to $10 that would provide sufficient revenue to support one officer for 1 year. We have not allocated any of the fees to the general fund. The interest earnings in the Public Safety Fund are not forecasted to be used to pay the debt. The Budget Committee may choose not to approve the transfer. In that case, there will need to be an alternative choices made. And again, I will have budget spreadsheets live for the meeting on today. And during this time, the committee can see the effects of choices to make those decisions. 13.
Can I ask a question? On 12A, capital AB. We had done a calculation. Increase the fee to $10. Sufficient revenue to support the fee. Is that the water bill fee you're talking about?
Yep.
So. And this is your answer, is 12 capital A, Gloria. So an increase in the water fee of $10, not to $10, but right, an additional 10.
No,
Yeah, from 3 to 10.
3 to 10, okay. Okay, so when the 3 was increased to 10, that was at a time when all the money was sequestered for the building of the police station.
it is.
So is what you're saying though, if we use this calculation, a $7 increase we pay for one officer? Is that what that means?
For 1 year.
For 1 year, thank you. $7 increase we pay for one officer for 1 year. That was a calculation.
That was the calculation, yes.
Last year, this year.
That was for the Budget Committee last year.
Well, I think half the issue with this, that if there could be clarification, there's been so much talk on reallocating. There's been meetings about that, right? And I think there's still a lot of confusion on where money, if it's coming from public safety fund to like staff officers. I think there's just a lot of confusion. Like I've listened to all the meetings and I mean, still confused a little bit on where we're taking money and moving it with officers and possibly reallocating where it's coming from. I think that's half the problem. There's been so much conversation and dialogue about this. I think just like stepping back and providing ultimate clarity would probably help on staffing and where we're.
So in the proposed budget, the $1 million transfer from the Public Safety Facility Fund of the accrued interest would go to the general fund just to keep the general fund to the 15% reserve.
So was there never a plan when the public safety facility was, being put together, that interest from that was going to be utilized for the public safety fund at all?
No, because until I came along, there was no allocations of interest to that
What
fund.
is the plan, John?
Mine was to build a police station.
Yeah.
Start right away spending.
Not have the
The
interest.
money just sat there and it's accruing interest.
So there was no plan between when we started that and then when you came on board for what we were gonna do for interest?
Wasn't the money borrowed and then wasn't it?
So
Kind
it
of-
was borrowed at a decent rate, it was years ago, and we actually expected to start building years ago, because remember, we had a planning commission denial and a Luba case, okay? That was 2 years ago, that would be a total of 2 years ago.
Right.
I'm just throwing that out.
23.
I think it's important.
And so we did not expect that, but we had a good rate. Gloria came along, threw it in, and we got some decent
I'm just
interest.
trying to ask for clarity to make sure it wasn't part of a plan for
No.
pay that down and that this was,
No,
just.
never was. Nope, it was a service of debt only.
I think Jennifer's question was, my understanding, when was, so we borrowed the money, used the bonds, borrowed the money. And my understanding was the bonds were actually reinvested into a higher yield than we were paying on the interest. Am I wrong on that?
No,
They're still,
they're in the, what's called the local government investment pool, LGIP. And that is kind of like a bank account. It's with the state. It's a state-run investment pool.
Was that the bank account you were referring to at the last meeting?
Yes.
So it's in, okay, all right, and when was it put, so it was put in there when approximately?
The proceeds were deposited into that.
Okay, so it went directly from the bonds into this LGIP
Yes.
in 2000 and.
I believe it was September 2021.
yeah,
2021 or 2022? 2021, okay. Okay, and so it's been earning about $1 million in interest a year
No, that total, right? Well, cumulative.
total. Okay, so about $250,000 a year. Oh, actually,
The interest rates change
300,000.
constantly.
Okay, all right, that clarifies things, thank you.
Did I answer your question?
You did, like, I just wanna make sure it wasn't part of the plan, 'cause it seems like the public safety, facility is just making sure that one, that can still get built if it ever has an opportunity to get built. And then, just clarity that that wasn't something all of a sudden we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, basically.
Right.
The city is free to build a station anytime it wants.
So number 13. Since there is immense confusion regarding police staffing, please outline in writing the plan for the 2 officers that will be hired to replace the 2 lieutenant officers. Where are these 2 officers being funded from? They're being funded from general fund revenues and general fund reserves.
Okay. I mean, they always come out of, I just wanna make sure that they weren't coming out of like the reallocation from the public safety fund, because that was a topic of discussion at one point.
No, do not.
I have an additional question. Because I know the levy had said we were gonna fund the hiring of new officers with the levy. So are those different new officers than the ones that these two in paragraph 13?
Yes. So these two officers that are being hired now, they're going through the process, are just to backfill those that are expected to retire this next year.
And then,
And then the levy was calculated to hire and provide for 4 new officers.
you have an, and is the, so the, so. This is $720,000. And $7 is one officer, to do the math, or that's 70%. 70% of 720 is something.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit off on the $7.
$500,000, so it's about $1 million.
Maybe with everything, cars and everything.
Okay, so is it about $1 million for the 2 officers? Is that the number? These two in item 13A?
For those 2,
Yes.
for one officer, it's about 190,000.
Okay. One officer is 190, so 2 is 380, and then cars on top of that.
Yeah. So on top of that,
So it's about $500,000.
Uniforms, gear, cameras.
And how much of those 2 officers, and is there any breakdown specifically of how much of that $500,000 for the 2 new officers is coming from reserves?
No.
It's all out of the general fund,
all general
and
fund.
that's in the budget right now. Okay, thank you.
Number 14. Tourism. In regard to the WANA Federal Credit Union account, please provide factual evidence as to who is in control of the account. Who are the signers on the account? Provide evidence that the account is a trust account for the city of St. Helens. Provide a list of people who have access to the WANA account. Provide an explanation of what city funds are deposited into the WANA account. Who do the funds in the WANA account belong to? If the funds belong to the city, how is this proprietary? If the funds do not belong to the city, how are they going to be returned to the city if, 1, per John Walsh's email on the 4/11/2024, how if the contract terminates, any funds will revert back to the city? How is this accurate if this is not the city's funds? So the city of St. Helens does not have ownership or signatory access to this account. We are not able to provide evidence about an account we do not have. If you want proof that this is in trust to the city, that will need to be provided by the account owner. Since it is not our account, we do not have access and do not have a list of those who do. We do not deposit city funds into a WANA account. The funds belong to the owner of the account, which is either Tina Curry or E2C. And so from our city attorney regarding that last portion of the question, present agreement as extended provides for how the funds are distributed. Any and all remaining funds after the payment of budgeted and approved expenses shall be transferred to the city by December 28th. If E2C is not selected as the contractor for 2025, the funds will not be invoiced and returned to the contractor to provide funding for approved future events. You, the city, should be prepared to work for a potential transition plan and be sure that E2C is aware and agrees to the end of the year accounting and approach.
So I'd like to hear from Mayor, I'd like to hear from you on this, like reading through this, how does this make logical sense that the money will be returned to the city? How could it?
I'm not over tourism, so why would you want to hear?
Well, I just want to know, I wanted to know your input. This is a discussion. I want to know in your input that if this is a trust account, which it goes back to Mortensen, Topaz, Burkle, it's John Ellis, I gave a presentation that the council, had said that it should be a trust account. If anybody hasn't validated it's a trust account, first of all, and then if it is a trust account and the funds are in there and they are to be returned, but there's no oversight of that, then we have a proprietary interest of the money in that account. We don't know how much is in there, right?
So if I could answer your question,
I'd like to know.
yeah, so what I know is that John Walsh was appointed tourism by Mayor Peterson. That I came in under that and he has overseen tourism since I've been there.
Do you recall that it's supposed to be set up as a trust account?
I've heard that, yes.
So does it make sense to you that if it is to be returned to the city, but we don't know how much is in there, if the RFP?
I don't know why you're
Well, I'm just,
questioning.
because you haven't given input on it.
Because
Okay.
there's also other counselors here that have been here sometimes.
Yeah, no, I get it, but I'm asking, I was just
So,
asking you.
so this is, when I get that, but I'm wondering why when we're talking about budget,
Because
I
the
don't
thing
have
is-
the answers. The attorneys have answered.
So
The attorneys have
thing is-
answered.
Yeah, they kind of have. But the thing is, if it's a trust account, then we have proprietary interest in that account. And my question, this has to deal with the budget, because if there's $1 million sitting in that account and we're looking for an IT position that we could possibly pull money for, like Matt Funk to replace that position, we're not even looking at those resources at all. If that money is supposed to come back to the city and be returned, you can't return something that doesn't already belong to somebody, right? So this is like an oxymoron. So I am highly confused on the mental circus that goes around this particular discussion on the city, the funds. And that last part about making sure that the contractors are, if it's the contractor's money, that's fine. I mean, that's one thing. But the fact of it being returned, that means we have money that is of the interest of the city of St. Helens.
The attorneys have explained it.
Can you explain to me what they?
I cannot, I'm not the attorney.
Yeah, that's.
I'm not an attorney. And that's why I was feeling like, why are you asking?
No,
me?
I mean, it was just actually a
And
respectful.
we
question.
actually, yeah, well, yes, but we actually have heard this from our attorneys that in order for her to work as a subcontractor. And not have to have everything absolutely allocated or be a city employee.
Okay.
That this is the way it needs to be set up.
Okay,
We have been told multiple times as a council.
are you sure that city money doesn't go in there from ticket sales, checks, other things?
It's all tourism, yeah, it's all
Okay.
tourism.
But it's not accounted for by the city. No.
It's audited, but not accounted for.
It's not accounted for by the city.
Would it?
The contractor at the end of the year is supposed to and obligated to do an accounting to the city of revenues, expenses, and then we get a percentage of the gross proceeds. The net. I don't know, maybe Tina can.
I don't, that's not the contract.
That is not the contract.
Why don't we let John chime in? Sorry, John, to put the light on you, but I know that you know all about this situation, so.
Well, this has been an evolution over the past 10 years, how this started off as a contract with E2C. They had a personal services agreement that had very little language about our boilerplate, so kind of began as boilerplate template, and really it had her fee, and basically it evolved over time that it also had a clause in there that she has a certain amount of 5% for managing subcontractors, and for many years there wasn't enough. Tourism barely paid for itself. It would, in some years it didn't, and we had to pay it back the next years and make it whole. And only in the COVID years where we started to limit people by paying to be here, that it actually started making money. And
It was a loser for how many years? It's only recently has it sort of taken a hold, right? Right. And the entire time our contractor has worked tirelessly for us to help build the program.
Let's get back to John answering this situation real quick.
Well, hang on a second, I mean,
Actually,
we've reinvested in tourism every year.
to hear, like.
The contractor has reinvested in tourism, reinvested in tourism each year.
And so there's the money in this fund, whatever it is gonna be used to pay our expenses for this year's tourism events, right? Most likely.
It's the operating account for tourism.
Right.
See, in all respect, not directed at you.
I'm just trying to get to
I
the
like to
point.
hear the answers to this because it's been an issue for a very long time.
So
What is the answer? What is the question?
The question,
the money,
yeah, who owns the money
Yeah.
on an account if it has, if it's gonna be returned to us, if the RFP doesn't go to the contractor?
that is what the attorneys advised. We asked that question, who owns the money? Because for years, Tina has treated it like public money. She reinvests all the money back into it. She only takes her fee out. And that's it. But
So how, like, do you know as of today, how much, if that RFP didn't go through, how much money would come back to the city?
not exactly. But it's not $1 million.
What do you
But
think?
how do we not know? Like, I guess we read.
That money,
She
but,
generates the money in her operating account.
but tourism, besides a hotel motel tax, correct me if I'm wrong, but that can be used to go back into the general fund. So what I'm trying to get at is that there's money in there that is, you know, we don't know how much money is in there, right? And if there is money that could come back to this city, right?
There is. I mean,
Right. Okay,
yeah.
so there's money in there. Could it pay for Matt Funk, the IT guy?
There was a 10% of the ticket sales, which is around 900,000, came back to the general fund.
That came back to the general fund like 4 years ago.
Each
Right.
year.
So it's coming back.
She's writing,
She's writing a check like 100,000, right?
it's like 93 or 96,000.
Yeah, so it's not, it doesn't, it's, you're saying that, you just said that it comes to 90.
And just curious, how much do we get off tourism itself, through the revenue from the hotels?
The hotel is around 140, 150,000.
Okay.
It fluctuates.
So that pays the contract amount, which makes sense. That's 120,000, call it a wash, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, so then we make as a city roughly 100,000, not talking about vendors and businesses, which is fantastic for them, right? And we need to keep that going. But for the city itself, we're not contractually obligated to get any money back, but we have been getting roughly 93 to 100 back. But we don't know what's in that account. My whole point of asking this is because if there is money in there, which we don't know how much, that we could possibly also just be, again, utilizing to say, let's say Matt Funk, an IT guy. Like, isn't that something that should be considered? I don't know also if it returns back to the city, how this is not part of the city's, like, we're not adding that part of our budget or not even considering it. Very confusing for a lot of people. And obviously it's a habitual issue.
It's also the operating capital to see, because the only event that makes money is Halloween.
But we don't know.
Events cover their expenses.
Respectfully, we don't know how much is in there, right? So you're kind of alluding that there's plenty of money in there. Hopefully there would be enough for the Halloween town or whatever. That would be great. That's good business. But how much is in that account?
So this is kind of, again, I would come back to the legal, what was given legal. And you're asking legal questions that attorneys would provide the answers, Jennifer. And this is just out of respect, okay?
I always
Completely out of
respect
respect.
the
Yeah,
respectful
yeah.
conversation.
But what I hear, is that, the attorneys say that this is the way it is contracted, this is the way it works. What I do know is that we get about 100 grand back. This is just overall. We get 120 if she was ever doing her job. We get 120,000.
Right.
We get 100 back. So we're talking $20,000.
It's a
We're
lot.
talking 20,000. Yes. So if that went away.
Yeah.
And was not in place. And was not in place, how much would we have today? $20,000 extra.
I think that's,
$20,000 extra.
yeah, that's not the point.
So my point is that you're asking questions that our attorney gave the advice on this question. and now you're trying to hit us up. And kind of, it feels like almost, but
Budget
almost,
committee. We're talking about.
Well,
Can I
but
circle back real quick?
but
Because
it does say the city's attorney's response, because the attorneys are the ones that looked at this and made sure that it was drawn up. But we didn't draw up the contract, the attorney drew up the contract.
And I think it's a great
So-
answer, that it's returned back to the city.
So you're asking a legal question that the attorneys have assured us that this is the way it needs to go.
The money comes back to the account in the RP. I'm asking how much money right now would come back or how much is in that account.
He's already stated.
That would be determined at December 28th.
I mean, I think the
If-
point has
if-
just been made, right? This has been habitual.
No. The answer is to that, is that we don't know and would not know unless there is a new person for the tourism, because the tourism is its own entity. And that it will actually be transferred either to a new tourism person or
Yeah, that's,
the city by December 28th is what it says.
that's exactly what I
That's what it
understand. That's
says.
not that was not my question. I understand the legal nomenclature that is on the paper. I understand the verbiage.
my concern was that
This has been a very highly contested,
capital for all of the
this
events.
has been very highly contested, and it's been a political,
That's
it's
concern.
been a political point on social media for your website, and it is yours.
My conspiracy theory?
I said your website, yeah, it's conspiracy, okay, whatever you wanna say there. But, I think it's very unethical that you come in here and you use this as a platform for when we're talking about budget.
So I don't understand why you're saying it's political.
I'm just saying my piece.
I really don't think
City
that
money.
we need further make the points, and then we've got a question, and I have some
That's okay.
observations about this in the
No,
budget.
Jenny.
committee. Because I think that you guys are looking at this completely the wrong way.
It's a question.
I understand.
A question that's not been answered that keeps coming up. So for clarity.
Well, it sounds more like an accusation, but that's okay. I mean, I understand you're making a
See, we
point.
can go back and forth all day, but it's gonna be like, we can go toe for toe.
Only been bad.
And if you're,
There's no fourth.
hold on, if you're asking how much, I think we can assume everything happens this year like it did last year, we'll probably get a check for $93,000. And if it's a working account, that's probably how much is in there.
Yes. Okay, I wanna go back to the ownership of the account, because yesterday on the work session at 1 hour 53 minutes in, Mayor Schultz says it is our funding regarding the tourism. Then later on, if we own that money. John later said this is a good reason to extend the contract, because we don't necessarily know who owns this account. No one knows was what, and then in the budget meeting, John says we don't own the account. So this is why we're confused, because it's like, people don't know who owns the account. But then they say that we do know. I mean, you can go back and watch.
That's in between the time you're asking the attorneys the question, right?
That was the work session yesterday. You asked the attorney after the work session yesterday. Yes.
I don't know, it's kind of it was a heated discussion, and want to make sure that we have our 13 nights. I remember clearly what it is. It's been going since 2006. I don't know how you answered it, whether you answered it that way. Apparently you.
Didn't intend to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was very heated.
The sad part is when people
Funny
ask
thing
questions,
is the
it
moment,
doesn't mean
right?
that somebody's against the contractor or tourism. Like, we're asking if there's any other resources, Mayor, that are available that we can tap into. Like, is there any other resources that if that bank account is heavy and it's a city's fund, are we able to use any of that or any additional resources in the general fund? That's why it's a budget question.
It could be a public.
So the attorney answered that question and said, no, it is not.
Then that's.
It
what
is
it
not.
says.
At the working moment.
Understand, but that doesn't mean that it's a political question when we're talking about budget. So it's a question that's asked because if that fund is available, why would we not be tapping into it? So it's great that you got the lawyer to answer it. There's been lots of different.
But what you just did was you asked a person who's not an attorney, we asked this. Yes, as mayor, but you also have other counselors, and you have made plenty of accusations that are untrue about myself. Take it in and
Now,
out.
now let's stay on the
Well, I
topic
mean,
here.
if we're going there, taking an anonymous post and putting it
Let's
up.
not go there.
That's why I call it the conspiracy page. Oh, you've had plenty of anonymous posts on
I'm
your
posting anything
website.
anonymous.
Let's not go there. We're talking about a budget here.
Not for me.
You let it happen.
Mr. Mayor, in all due respect,
Yep,
keep to our budget.
absolutely.
So I would like to talk.
Thank you, Mr.
To
Mason.
finish my. You guys hold on. If there is a trust that was, or whatever, however this is set up, they shouldn't be saying. I'm formally requesting the documentation on how tourism was set up, what the contract was and all that.
Like, I don't appreciate that.
Go ahead,
Be professional.
go ahead.
Get that, sorry.
If this is a trust. In trust account.
There is a contract, it's
There
public
should be
document.
documentation, and I want it provided to the budget committee. And they said I think it was online yesterday, that Tina is provided to us. So I would like her to provide all that.
We have no authority over Tina at
Yes,
all.
we do.
No, we
She
don't.
is our contractor.
All right.
The city.
The law is city employees, not independent contractors. Sorry, that's not. the law.
Since she said that since the executive director says since she participated in the contract, that she is actually an agent of the city. So you might want to check that legal piece.
Let's exercise legal authority over her and watch what happens to the money in a bank
Come
account.
on.
You go right ahead and do that, because if you suddenly want to make her an employee,
So we really need to get to budget.
that's what I want to talk about.
And talk
That's what I want to talk about.
about
This
budget.
could be a public works employee.
I got you. I got your point.
We're trying to turn over every step.
You know what? You're trying to turn over stones. You're trying to turn over stones. I got you. Got it.
I think we can get the documentation that the city has signed a contract.
What is the documentation you want?
When in 2017, when this was all set up, there has to be a paper trail. This is formal stuff. So I want to know what the trust, there had to be a conversation of, Tina, you get to have this one account, you put this in there, and she's like, I'm gonna cut this money back to you. I want to know how that was set up, and why do we not have access?
Go back to 2017 for today, for a 2025 budget committee meeting.
That money is successful.
It's irrelevant.
We have people that are losing their jobs. We have to cut things, places. If there's money sitting there that can save an employee, I want to know.
I get it. That's your guys' point of view. And my point of view on this is that we should be looking at our tourism business, not like to micro. Not to create,
People's jobs is more important.
excuse me, you know what? Please stop interrupting me.
There's no.
So we should not be looking at our tourism program like we are going to create a city tourism department. We cannot fool ourselves to think that we have the skill set to be able to create the kind of revenues that our contractor has created. Excuse me, stop interrupting.
Discussions.
Stop interrupting.
You're not talking to hear yourself.
No.
Like, it's not even a discussion. We're asking.
Lou, can I please have the floor, please? Because I want to talk about this in budget. I mean, what can't we talk about?
I think it's a fair what he's saying. I personally do.
I just want to know.
It doesn't
He's
matter.
talking about a revenue stream that she's created.
Just am asking as a chair,
I think
that I be recognized and I be able to make a point here
But make a
because.
point, don't dance around the point and take 10 minutes to make a
All right,
point.
here's the point. We should be looking at tourism as revenues, and we should be looking at tourism as percentage of revenues that we want. You know, so if tourism generates $800,000 in revenues, we should be talking to an independent contractor who's gonna run our whole program and say, we want 20% of the revenues. The rest, we want to make sure you're putting it back into the program because we've got a whole bunch of businesses that depend on it. That's what our program is. Our program is not to raise money for the city. And and I think it's a huge mistake to think that we can hire somebody and pay them a little bit of money and they're gonna succeed to generate this. So I think we should be looking at tourism as far as budget is concerned, as we should be looking at saying what we want to do is have our contractor provide us a percentage of revenues. So if it's 853,000, we get 200 grand. And then she runs the tourism program, buys the insurance, hires the bands. We go to sleep at night. I mean, there's a certain amount that we should be able to get and we should be able to negotiate. The idea that we need to nickel and dime and figure out, how much is this, how much is that? And, the proposed contract by the city is like, if she's gonna spend like $5,000, it's gotta go through John. There's like 800, and if $10,000, she's gotta go to the council. And we're gonna be spending all this time micromanaging tourism. So as a budget,
That hasn't happened.
well, that's what they're heading in that direction. That's the problem.
Okay, so again, I'm gonna refer back to the budget manual.
Thank you.
Can the budget committee add or delete programs or services? Generally, the budget committee's role is not to directly establish or eliminate specific programs or services. Standards and budget parameters established by the governing body give the budget officer and administrative staff general guidelines for budget development. The budget officer then prepares a budget which reflects the governing body's parameters. This proposed budget is what the budget committee considers during its meetings. Budget committee influence on programs and services is most often exerted at a higher level when it approves the overall budget and establishes the tax levy. Having said all that, if a majority of the budget committee agrees, it can add or delete funding for specific services. Public participation at budget committee meetings may influence budget committee decisions. However, final authority for administration rests with the governing body. The governing body can make the changes after the budget committee has approved the budget, although they may have to reestablish the budget and hold another public hearing. So that said, this whole conversation about a program is not your role.
Can we say that what we would like to do is establish a goal that we would like to see the 20% of the gross revenues come back in the form.
That's not even the topic of discussion.
I don't know, I'm just asking.
I want to
It's
see
not.
what's, how this was set up and how much is in the account, because we are looking for money to fund our city. That is the point.
I don't think that there's any
Doesn't sound like it.
tourism,
I'm not
Tina
trying
and
to
you
limit
do a good job. Is there any money available for us to utilize that would be outside of the?
She's sitting there. She could-
According to the attorney, he said no.
What do we have?
The attorney says no. I mean, I just come back to what was written in
Right.
the answer. So,
As a committee, though, we have a right to see
We do.
any contract that the city has done that affects our budget.
Yeah.
So I think you want to see that.
Please, yes.
so, and again, I will come back to this, that, what we're really talking about here, and maybe it's the way I look at things. We get $93,000 in revenue from the hotel tax. We spend 120. We were talking about $27,000 that this person generates a lot of money and provides services for 13 nights, 4th of July, the Christmas ships, Halloween Town, and there's one other one, Santa Castle, I don't know.
Yeah,
There was one other one though too, but, so I just wanna make that really clear that if that went away, we're talking about $27,000 that we would actually. Actually, we're talking 20, cause she gives us back 100.
I'm really confused.
Right,
about it
right.
going away. Who said anything about runway? That's not what I'm asking for. I'm
But
asking
we-
for the account, the paperwork. I want to know what's in there. And if we have any extra money.
And the attorney answered that.
No.
He did, he said that it
He
gets
did.
returned back to the city, and we're just asking,
Extension provides how the funds are distributed.
so we're not
Section
saying
4.
there's not a
If
great
there's
job.
money to shift around, that's it.
If there's a surplus over what the normal, let's say Halloween Town takes $400,000, right, to do, and it's in that account. And there's 700,000 or 800 or $1 million in there, and there's a little extra that could be given back to the general fund to save Funk's job or somebody else's job, right? Then why wouldn't we consider it? That's the point, I think. You keep coming back. Nobody's disputing that there's not an amazing tourism program. There's a contract and all that stuff is noise in the background that comes back to, is there actual extra money in that account that is over what it would cost to do tourism for a year that we could utilize in the general fund? I don't think that that's a very difficult, that was the whole point of that question. And I get it, the lawyer came back and said if the RFP ends, we get the money back, the city gets the money back, but that was a question. What kind of money do we get back? Is there an opportunity? Not taking anything away from tourism as far as to operate, to have all these wonderful things. Make your business.
So Brandon and Russ, how does the new contract read in the RFP? You guys are working on it.
Regarding to this.
It would be regarding to this particular issue, because we're getting ready to put it out. Yeah, it is out.
I read it.
So that should answer those questions in there.
No, it doesn't though. It doesn't, it answers like the allocation and it answers all of that, Mayor, but it doesn't answer like, okay, so let's just say hypothetically the one account, let's say it has 1.2 million in it. We don't know, right? And it takes 400,000 to operate a whole year on the Halloween count. So it's in there. Those operating expenses are there. If there was extra money that would be returned back to the city at any point, or maybe it's not, could we utilize any of those funds to help us in this situation when we're in a budget crisis? That's the
So
question.
my question to you is, how many, do you guys have one or two attorneys working on this? This one that you worked with? Because they obviously are saying the same thing and we're not, she's looked at it, not getting the answer she wants. So are they saying the same thing that the old contract read?
Mostly work with one individual.
But he agreed that's the way it should be, is the way it reads currently.
I'm
And
not seeing how that relates to this question.
It's different.
it is different.
It's
It is different.
it's very concise and there's too much to go into.
John, did the attorneys, did they or did they not already establish who owns the account and who has access to the account? And they said that it is under the ownership of the
You answered the question
event
already.
coordinator. The city does not have access to it. And so we can't know what's in it because it's not ours.
So we only know when it comes back, how much money we get when it comes back.
Right.
So we have a proprietary interest in that account. That's why it's a trust account, right? So we have that money. That's fine. That language is fine. My only question again is if we have a proprietary interest in that fund, that means that we have, some ownership of it in a trust fund. I was just, not a trust fund, but a trust account. Comes back to Mayor, and I think that maybe I'm struggling to articulate this. If there is one, let's say hypothetical numbers, there's 1.5 million dollars sitting in that account, and I have no idea, you guys don't know either. And it takes 400,000 to operate a whole year of like tourism, and I like Halloween Town, and those are just numbers, right? And there's all that extra money there that we could help us in our budget crisis right now in our general fund, right? That we could get back. We have a proprietary interest in it, and we do have ownership of whatever funds would come back to us, and that's something to ask the lawyer. Just asking if there's extra funds that could come back and help us in this situation. It has nothing to do. I actually really like Tina. I like EGC. I hope they get the next 100. I don't, it's not about that. It is their funds that we could tap into. That's the question. I think you're missing the whole mark on the contract and all of that noise. Is there additional funds outside of the operating expenses for tourism that have been sitting there building that we have a proprietary interest in that we could utilize in this budget crisis for staffing?
Well, that would be what did the audit show last year? And what are the expenses year to date? We don't know.
Right. That's the whole problem.
We don't have the right to ask and they don't have the obligation to tell us how much is in the account now.
We know that. Have we seen it? Have we seen the original document?
And I don't know if that's a budget committee question, the original documentation.
Well, what does the contract say about the trust account?
That's what I'm asking for the original documentation, because it does say if there's misinformation, and it does say that we actually do get to see it, maybe you have access to it. I want to know.
I've seen the contract, I'm saying, it doesn't say that we have access to any of the.
Or if there's no trust, I think the trust came up after, like, I think that was a council thing that came out. Or if there's no trust, then if it hasn't been established, then that money, we don't have a proprietary interest anyway, and it wouldn't come back to us. This would be based on the fact that that trust did get set up. So Jimmy's asking, I believe,
I understand what the question is.
Yeah.
I get it.
so just
Yeah.
looking for money, Mayor, that's it.
I did ask, by the way, it was late, but I did ask, I think today, maybe yesterday, it was late. For the audit that John Ellis did. I don't know if one got done, but. I asked for that.
I don't know the legal parameters around that audit and how it's discoverable. I have no idea.
Right. I just thought this might come, so that's why I asked for it, because she was audited at the end of the year. And obviously it wasn't a problem because it didn't get raised, but something we could look at, maybe it would allay the question that, you know, I don't think there's anywhere near 1.5 million.
On a conversation that was had with somebody that is all known for tourism was something around 600, was it 600 or 700,000 at least in that account.
If we don't have access to the account, I can't see how we would have legal authority to audit that account.
But if we're on,
I'm not saying, I mean, that makes no sense.
You have the right to audit
Not our
a
account.
contractor at the end of the year, and I believe she was audited.
We can ask her right now.
And she was, and she,
That was not an audit.
it was an
It was a
AEP.
cursory accounting, and he's not a CPA.
well, let's just say this. There was one that was paid for. And the contractor submitted to whatever the city wanted over many months. There was a written document, I'm talking about the first audit. In response to the false accusations that were being made that were repeated in December of this last year. And acted upon and damaged our contractor. And then there was another audit or something, whatever it was the city asked her to do, she did. And so, you can call it whatever you want or not.
What it is.
Okay, well, I asked for that. I asked for that document.
So Tina's in the audience. I'm gonna ask if you will come forward and answer some questions for us.
I really would like to find that. There's so much misinformation, I can tell by this conversation that's right there. That I think everybody needs to take a class on what it means. And what that means as it relates to my business with the cities.
I haven't
Do
agreed.
not understand what that means, and it would solve all the questions that are being asked. And that's I think we should have an attorney come maybe explain what an independent contract means. It's like having a business that you're doing business with. And you do not have access to all of their information. That's why you are an independent contractor. And we have, I will say this, we have faithfully put a lot of money into the city of St. Helens as we have dutifully executed this contract that we did not have to do. We continue to do that. However, the idea of what people think about what's going on right now is really not very accurate. And it's more than a 5-minute conversation. I really think it deserves to have an attorney come in here and explain what an independent contractor is. Because that would clear up so much misinformation. And every year we have contributed back to the city, as John Walsh says, we donate it back to the city. And that is right now. I think that we need more information. I really believe people don't have accurate information. Because you're talking about a business. Like if you just convert the words business into independent contractor, you would have a much better idea of what you can expect from somebody. And we do have a contract with the city, and it has migrated and changed over the years. But, we've been always operating in good faith with the city.
Yeah, we get all that, but if you could just answer some just general questions would really help clear up. We get the independent contractor aspect, but just some general confusion questions without compromising anything you do or what you perform for the city. That was my question.
One of the reasons why the city doesn't have, I will tell you this, one of the reasons why the city does not have access to individual entries is because there is a lot of confidential information within the individual entries. People with entertainment especially don't want any of their information shared. People that build things and do bid processes don't want their information shared. It compromises how much they can charge in the future. And it is really routine in this industry to not share that information.
The question here was money in, money out, and if there's any money available, we do have a little budget problem here. We don't know how your cash flows. We do know at the end of the year, we get a check. That was the question.
Well, we already gave the city over, I think, $100,000 at the end of December. As a contribution, and they chose to put it into the general fund, and they can spend it anywhere they want to. We need operating capital to continue to execute, to the end of our contract.
How much is in there for operating capital right now? And if the RFP ended, how much would come back to the city?
That'd be the question. That
The
the
trust.
contract were to end right now, how much would come back to the city? How much operating capital is in there? Things like that, without divulging any
Yeah, no,
confidential names or anything.
I'm not gonna discuss that.
So, these questions are great and great dialogue, but I think this is kind of like keep spinning, it feels like it's spinning a circle right now, and I think that the best solution is for us as a council to come in for our own stuff, put it on an agenda item, have an attorney come in and explain to us as a council what an independent contractor is, and for those who want to be educated, that'll be a actual item. So,
That could cost us money. And then do that.
I hope so.
well, that's what we do. We, unfortunately, cities get sued and they have lots of litigation and they have lots of people who accuse them of things and contractors of things. So you utilize attorneys. Yes, we will spend money on an attorney because it seems to be very controversial and has been for quite some time to explain even furthermore the money issue and the trust and how an independent contractor works.
But you do.
I
understand
think-
it's controversial
I think-
because
I just think-
It's simple.
So,
I don't consider
So-
it controversial at all, just so you know.
I'm just throwing that out there, not as you guys, but we as a council run this city and get the ability to utilize our council, our legal counsel, the way we would choose to. And I think it's a really good way of us all being informed and asking questions that we need to at that point in time.
You have that attorney come in and if you, I don't know, if it'd be an executive session or not,
No, it wouldn't be.
but this is just a suggestion. Of course, it's gonna be the council. I do have a lot of concerns with Exhibit D, which is the suggested, I think it's an employment agreement. So I do think that you might wanna have an attorney that some of those
We
provisions.
will not,
So
we will
that's-
not, we
that's
will
not
not,
part
yeah,
of our-
yes. I apologize, but I was trying to get, and I guess I was trying to say we're spinning circles and we've been an hour and 42 minutes, which is great conversation, but just on these questions alone.
Trust on that.
I just have one question, Tina. Is the city of St. Helens listed as a trust?
So you asked that question, so why don't you ask the question?
I was going through Lou.
Well,
Question.
because you're quiet enough that I couldn't hardly hear when you asked Lou, and I could barely hear you, and I don't think everybody else.
My question is the city of St. Helens listed as a trust on this account? Who is listed on the account? Who's the signers and who is the city set up as a trust?
No response. So,
Has already answered that.
No,
I'm gonna sign her on the account. I mean, she's already answered this.
There's only one signer. on
So-
the answer, it's you.
and the city, is the city of trust listed as a trust?
so I'm a little bit nervous moving forward just because I know that there are an attorney present, there's somebody who has used attorneys in the past. And we all, this is uncomfortable. This goes into like legal, and that's why I'm recommending to the council that we actually bring in and just get what an independent contractor is and explain everything the way the contract and the RFP reads and why maybe E is in there or not in there. I think that's fair.
Talking governing body.
Yes, I know.
There.
And that's where we're going with the conversation.
I think we're getting anywhere.
You just read that.
Let's take a 8-minute break, come back and talk about raising revenue and the budget.
You just read that on your rules.
I'll wait my turn, okay? Take my time.
Okay, let's get started. Back on recording.
Yeah, oh, you're right.
We had, we're into opportunity discussion. A couple of people brought up a couple of items. What opportunity, we're gonna have to raise some money. So opportunity. Steve had a good idea, I thought, of the, raising, rentals from $240 a year, from $20 a year. That's a very common, source of income for a lot of cities. I had rentals in Seattle, it cost me $120, I believe. And had, you know, and with that, I had to have a mandatory inspection. That's a different subject, but that is a source of revenue. Other ideas for revenue?
We talked about that fee for service that Jen brought up.
Oh, fee for service.
It's called excessive use fee.
Yeah,
Is what it's called. And you know what it is, right? They have like I said, plug and plays for those. The program's already set up where there's actually like structures for calls. It's false alarm. It's basically, it's not again, like person, domestic violence, things like that, where it's like you shouldn't be penalized for calling, but it's like the nuisance calls that go out there, the people arguing and that person parked in my spot and they're noisy and you know, all those type of
it
things.
doesn't discourage people from making legitimate calls or trying to make a judgment that this is not a legitimate call. I'm not gonna call and somebody gets hurt.
Since we don't have a lot of detail, can we just kind of get a kind of a head nod of whether we think the council should move in that direction?
So I would give you an example. I'm visiting, and if we accidentally hit, we would get charged. But if it was, we actually, pulled the trigger because
Yeah.
there was something, there was a little buttons, then we wouldn't get. So,
It goes on a progressive
There's some
scale.
managers in charge, then he's gotta be on top of it, because they'll get billed.
And it's progressive, so like the first call, like nothing, right? But then it's like the second, third, fourth, for them. When they're called out for the same habitual nuisance thing, then there's a fee that is like, it's a progressive fee on top of that. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about it, but again, it's not utilized.
I think it's, like, for instance, at the apartments in question, there are alarms. Is that correct?
I don't know if there, I don't know if there's alarms or not.
You know what I understood from talking to the police officers a while back. And they had also suggested doing a service fee like that. Just because it's most of their calls and a lot of their time is wasted on calls that are false alarms.
Particularly Don's rental was one of the ones that was a false alarm a lot of the time.
Yeah, so that
You
it's
have to go walk that, for check.
right, and like you said, banks, same kind of deal. So if it's more of the, like I said before, the mechanism to get those kind of problems solved and eliminate the problem. The fee could end up being, not producing as much revenue as we want, but it would be more of a, less, taxing on our services, right?
Correct. Yeah, example. I mean, and where this epiphany came to me is that I had like 4 false alarms in Vancouver and I got a fee for $450. And I was thinking, wow, okay, this is just false alarm that the police had to show up to, that could add up. And that's when I started looking at these other agencies. So it does 2 things. One, it may be de minimis in the amount of fees, but it also will possibly encourage those managers, like Mr. Hopkins said, to do a better job, and it won't be so taxing on the public service.
Right.
and in some cases, like Walmart, if they get charged, eventually they might hire their own security.
Correct.
And so that takes some.
Yeah, that is a good point.
It is.
So these are recommendations we're making to council then to look into that as a committee.
Well, I think that we should be stronger on the, I think we should be stronger on the, I think that the fee thing needs to be looked at, but I think that we should be stronger on the business licenses.
That's the second item.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking,
We're just looking at all items.
Yeah, so I'm willing to second that the council look into, I'm willing to propose that the council look into a excess police call fee
fee for service.
fee for
nuisance
service.
Fire department as well. That's happened to us. That was common too, if somebody had a fire on a false alarm.
Well, we can't speak to the fire department because that's a separate entity.
Oh,
Yeah, we don't have the fire department insurance.
Then, also the rental, for rentals,
So I made a motion on that.
on the excessive
Does
fees.
the council look into it and
I'll second.
You want, do we want individual motions on them? And we'll just. Want an individual motion?
You can do one motion for both, either way.
Or more, so. Yeah, we'll take the motion for the person and then, say it again, Steve.
I move that the council look into adopting an excess use fee for excess calls from the police. As discussed in this meeting.
Second, any further minor discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, opposed? Opposed? Second one was the, on, you brought up on rentals?
Yeah, I propose that. Well, I'm not sure what the mechanism is, Gloria. I don't know, I mean, we don't have legislative authority, so I suppose it would be, we would make a recommendation that the council consider the adoption of.
Yes.
I would make a recommendation that the council consider the adoption of a business license fee of $240 per rental unit, commercial and residential, per year. Of course, subject to further study and discussion by the council, that would raise just on the residential unit, approximately 72,000. I mean,
We have some discussion.
Yeah.
I do not feel comfortable in that, because of the fact that, you're talking about a huge increase, and even $50 would be 150% increase. I think this is something that, I'm not opposed to. That's why I think 50 would be, granted rate's about $25,000 more. And according to what is written down here, I don't think it's fair to anybody to go up. You're talking what? 2,000%? I don't know. What is that?
it's 10
I
times.
mean, yeah.
And so,
It's it's 150% increase at $50. That's gotta be $30.
It's $20 a month.
Yeah.
I'm looking to try to kind of catch up with like a $2 million shortfall.
yeah, and to be fair, I think since we don't have industry and it would be several years, that this is a pretty. The grand scheme of that.
So the flip side of this,
Yeah.
would be that this will be passed on to a renter, right? And rent affordability at this time isn't all that great, right? Especially since we've got a lot of people out of work. And,
And for those using property management, they automatically every 2 years do 10%, and your rent goes up $150. Yes,
You got the possibility of 3 levies
yes,
down on.
yes, yeah. Yeah, so that's,
You know, I've got a couple units, some units that are gonna come online, and it's, I'm hearing all this, and it's like. Pencil. Sorry,
yeah.
we got police levy,
So how would you feel about if it went from 20 to 50 a year per unit? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's just an idea.
there's so much being added on, it's just,
And so we're coming back to we're about $2 million short of this budget. If we don't have revenues come from somewhere, because we are short on our recurring revenues. That we are short. We have a contract with our police that we had a discussion at the beginning. We look at how we cut fat, and I think Yeah, I heard the consensus was, we can talk about cutting fat. We can talk about saying, sorry, chief, you want this much? We're gonna give you this much, but we're still on recurring revenues, we're at least $1.5 million short, because if not, actually, we're about 2.3 million short. And that's in 1.5 if the levy doesn't pass. And so, basically trying to talk to our people about what it really costs to live in St. Helens. And that's really the bottom line here.
So, and I hear you, and I hear what you're saying. I hear where we're at. I'm a realist. I get it, okay? But as I watch somebody who is one of the people who is proposing to maybe potentially restart up the mill, it comes down to industry. Okay, we need industry. We had 5 mills in our area, okay? Five of them. We know just the Cascade at 2 machines with about, I think it was maybe a little over 100 employees. Does that sound about right for both machines? And then they shut down the one. Was a revenue loss of $1.4 million to the city. It's that one. Now you take Armstrong, who employed about 250 in 2017, or no, 18 or 19 is when they closed down. Because we actually were anticipating them to be part of our urban renewal, and they were going to invest $40 million in a new building there. And they announced the closure months later. It's nothing that the city has done, because Cascade just dumped a bunch of money into the number 2 machine and the roof, 3 million in the roof and about 15 million into the number 2 machine. And then just within the last year before them leaving, 18 million. We need to end up, we need industry here. We need to, as much energy has been around.
We don't have industry here.
I know, but as much energy,
Budget.
but as much energy has been around about a tourism and trying to find little dollars there. I'm just throwing this out
Talk about
there.
it?
No, I'm just throwing this out
That's an
there.
invite, we'll
No,
talk.
I'm just throwing this out there, that if we put that amount of energy into industry, we have an industrial park, and we have 204 acres of industrial property that has a deep water port, that has water rights, that has a big sewer that's sufficient for just about any type of industry. We as a council, we had a proposal, and we were disappointed that didn't come to fruition, because it was originally going to be $1 billion investment.
So, I understand all of that, I do.
Yeah,
And I understand that, that people are saying things, quote, don't pencil, quote. What doesn't pencil is this budget. And, what we heard when we were here is Mohammed.
so the cost of living,
Visions.
so you were talking about the cost of living for the citizens, and when I'm saying the missing piece, which, because I hear what you're saying, but the missing piece is the industry piece. 5 mills gone. What can we do?
There's $2 million.
Who can we talk to? Who's the leader? We got CSET, we've got the port. The port being the number 1 leader in industry.
This budget violates our budget principle.
You're just saying the math ain't mathing.
What do you mean the math ain't math?
We don't have.
We don't have.
I got it. So what we have is a bill to pay. What happened this year was we were so desperate for money, we had to raid our fund that's supposed to go to pay for our bond on the police station so that we could like literally meet our bills. We had our police come forward, very upset, saying, why is it that year in, year out, we've been promised this on our labor agreement? We can't get new officers. We can't get what we need. You guys promised us stuff. You didn't deliver. And really kind of what emerged this last year was the police found out that we signed a contract that we cannot afford. And that's when they came here and they said, you know what, we're not happy about this. We make commitments to our families. We are doing the job. We have risks. We are doing what we can do. And you guys aren't delivering on your end. And so what I'm saying is that we have obligations to people. And it's one thing to, we've made them, we've signed contracts. And it's one thing to say, I want to pay this with a dream. That's not what our budget principles say. Our budget principles say we should pay these with recurring revenues. And I think our people need to know if we can't afford these contracts, you know what we should do? Cut the police budget. Cut it by 1.5 million this year. Forget it. They don't get any increases. Period.
Okay, let's get back to the revenue ideas. You had a motion on
Well,
the table.
I tried 272,000, no.
Well,
And then, you know, and then what are we gonna do with, you know, that, so that's a start.
How about if we recommend to the council that they look into it and let them come up with a dollar amount? Gotta be more than $20.
Ultimately, that is way for.
Well, that's what I said. They recommended that they look into raise it $240 and.
But I was just trying to be a realist and not get everybody all upset about 240, I think is not realistic.
People should be,
20
people will be upset. They will be upset.
tops.
People are going to be upset.
Well-
That we are, we still have very low poverty here. And some of the lowest marks.
$1.90.8, we are the lowest in Columbia County. $1.91.
And that, you know, honestly, things cost money. I said this when I was on the planning commission to Patrick Berkeley. I've said it more than once. I said, we are not telling our people what it really costs to live in St. Helens. That's the problem, is that people are getting all these great services. And unfortunately,
No, you're wrong. You're not from here. Everything has went up. Everything has went up.
wrong.
And the only missing.
$14 million, the numbers are here, Rick.
The only missing piece is that industry has left. I've lived here all my life, Mr. Toski.
So
I'm third generation.
anybody else want to propose any at all, any increases?
Telling you that right
No
now.
water fee increases?
Say-
Yeah,
Let's say your original motion, maybe amend it to, with the goal of $240. I mean, we can't tell the council, you have to pass this, you have to discuss, you can't just tell them to pass something.
well, no, I think the motion was to consider raising the per unit fee for residential and commercial rentals to $240 a year on the business license per unit. To consider.
Right.
That's it.
There's a second to that? Okay, we've all heard the motion. Any other brief discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye,
Opposed?
Ross and Rick.
Okay, motion passes. The council to consider raising the rental fees to $240.
Let's consider cutting the police budget by $1 million. Or $500,000, how's that? Why don't we start with one piece? How about just $500,000? No, let's start with $1 million. $1 million, just, we're gonna cut it. Whatever they ask for, we're gonna cut it to $1 million.
Why don't we look at all the departments
So-
at one time?
I can bring up that spreadsheet for the general
There
fund.
you go.
And we can do that. We can cut $1 million out of the police budget and then we can go over and see how that works in the forecast.
Okay, and then can you also go over, because you said that Plan B, if the levy doesn't pass, you had something for that too?
Yeah, so let's start with this one first,
All right, thank you.
Put it up there too.
the general fund.
I can just stare at the mayor of the screen at the same time. Since we've had all this eye contact, this budget committee, it's like this.
Okay. I'm gonna make this just a little bit smaller so that we can see a little bit better, maybe, possibly. Okay, so this is the police department. Oh, thank you. And let's just
I know there's a piece of the increase for equipment, and then there's a piece of the increase for for wages, so
Right,
I'm not sure how you want to analyze that,
I'm
Gloria.
not sure either. So let's see.
Equipment being $270,000 or something like that. Equipment. Was it 700?
Let me take a look.
We can't really take it out of, utilities and services.
It's allowed 10% of the work departments.
No. You can fill out 10% across all.
Yeah.
No.
Who's curious about that?
Yeah, I mean, I would, is this proposed budget include the?
Actually, let's stop the picture.
So there is a proposed 220,000 increase in materials and services.
Okay, so let's just do the exercise of $1 million, okay? I've done it, I took it all out of personnel services, just for this exercise.
Okay, so just
So-
for our budget.
so here-
Yes.
Here's how it affects the forecast. And I'm gonna reduce this too, so that you can see it.
So you can plug and play and everything fills in.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, great. Excel.
okay, so. So that brings us to 24%. Reserve. For this year and 17% for next year.
That's how much?
$1 million.
$1 million. That just happens to be taken out of the police department, not the general budget. Just took $1 million out.
Yeah. Correct.
$1 million out of the whole budget is 17%. Wherever it comes from.
And that puts us in the black, so that puts us in the black.
24%. If $1 million.
Yes, so it would bring, so currently in the proposed budget, this right here is. Right there
Yeah.
is 24, is 15% in our proposed budget. So if we did this, $1 million off the. No, it's so police budget. It would bring the 2025 approved budget to 24% reserve. And then moving forward, 17% for next year in the forecast.
So that's actually gonna really improve our long-term prospects. So we do 1 million this year. Which is really, so there's a requested increase. From 4.789 million to 5.975 million, so the requested increase is 1.2 million. So if we just say no to 1 million of that increase, then that's the outcome.
For 1 year, because what I see up there is still the steady decline over the next 4 years.
Right.
Yeah, just.
But
Which was, we're gonna see with almost every single budget analysis,
we
right?
will.
Yes.
But the other side of that is that, we're progressive, right? And we're going to continue to do our economic development program and try to bring in industry again and boost that up. That boosts up our property taxes so that
Can you talk
in the
a little bit
end,
about
we'll,
in the urban renewal too, but it feeds the urban renewal, but we get a little bit of an administrative fee on that too.
yeah, but even aside from urban renewal, it'll still go.
Yeah.
The general fund of the city will
Yeah.
still be improved.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Worse, bad. Still bad.
Not that bad.
It doesn't solve the problem.
Well, I think it's the worst idea of the night, because we're going up for a levy, trying to fund them, so I don't know why we cut $1 million. It's
Sense to me.
0 cents at all, but.
Well,
But we just happened to take it out just for this exercise of the police department.
I just wanted you to see how that looks.
well, it's the general fund.
That works, Lori was saying it works too. funds, or it's out of the entire.
Correct.
Well, that's what Lou and I were just saying, because if you think about it, that could have come out of any department, and the projections are still gonna look the same.
No,
Okay, so,
no.
so,
This is out, because the reason why we're doing this is that there are plenty of funds in the other funds. And the only fund that we're short in is the general fund, where we're supposed to have recurring revenues paying for recurring expenses. That's why we're discussing the general fund.
and all police departments come out of the general fund for most everything.
Correct.
Yes. So
So if we're not gonna
My
talk
question
about
is this.
cutting,
my question is this, just a hypothetical, because I just wanna see it. 1.4 million. Not just off the police, just for hypothetical, because that's what we lost, and we know we added some, we know we added some. I just wanna see what it looks like. 1.1, take 1.4 away from the 1.4 million
From the budget.
from the budget. And it's the police, and this is just a hypothetical, because I
Okay,
wanna see
so we
where we
just
do
did a
that.
million, we wanna do 1.4.
1.4, because that's what we lost in Cascade. I'm just wanting to see what we'd be looking at there. Because we did increase the police 400, maybe potentially more with the, oh, I'm just curious of where we would be at, that's all. Look at that. 3 years out. Again, industry, my point, industry. I can't stress it enough. I mean, I'm not an economic wizard. But that doesn't lie. That's what we got from Cascade, 1.4 million.
and honestly, Wayne, what Gloria had said in her, I think it was second quarter budget last year, was that the Cascade's contribution to the general fund was around 360,000.
No, it was more than that. It was 600, I think, in some, and then with all the other waters.
It's not all in the general fund, not 600,000.
Oh, because the 355 too, they also paid yearly.
I think
fees.
actually he's closer to it.
And I remember I have it in here, so if I can pick it up.
But total revenue though to the city was $1.4 million.
Right.
No matter how you look at it, it's still money that's in the budget.
Chat with the potential client there, is that look like that's gonna pencil out, that we can,
We're hoping, yeah,
I didn't hear that, Jennifer, I'm sorry.
the client that's wanting to come, you know, the city's working on it and the attorneys are working on it, their attorneys are attorneys. City attorneys.
Well, so what is the increase for? I mean, is it to pay the contract? Why are we being asked to pay a $1.2 million increase from last year?
So in this, in the police department budget is the additional 800,000 if the levy passes.
Yeah.
I think that's the part you're missing that got plugged in that I was upset about the first time, was I didn't leave it in here because it added budget 140,000.
It's an increase of 400. In fact, if the levy didn't pass, and 80 of that would be also, it's actually more than 80 because of last year's budget. But roughly about 80 because the cars were sold. The last year, which kept their car allowance down to 135. It's gonna be 280 this year, and it's roughly about a $80,000 increase in take-home cars. And then, probably other services and stuff like that.
Okay, so 800 of the 1.2 is for the extra officers? That's the,
It's the levy.
Yeah. And it's paid for by the levy.
okay, so plan B then is if the levy doesn't pass, then what?
Comes out.
Yeah, it comes out.
Let's talk about that in the whole.
So we will reduce, if the levy doesn't pass, we take out the revenue, okay, so.
Yeah.
We've got a revenue side here. So here's the police levy, so that's the revenue side. Then we would reduce the expenditure side by the same amount.
The levy doesn't pass, it's a
But
wash.
it's gonna be in net zero, game on that.
Still be a 15%.
Right.
deficit.
We're still 1.5 million short in the
Right.
general fund because we have that interest of $1 million is not a recurring expense, and 500,000 in timber, which is not a recurring revenue. So we're still 1.5 million short in our general. We are. So the question is, do we try and make up some of that shortfall? So let's just say the levy, let's just say, how about we deny the 400,000 that the police are asking for extra? And then we deny a couple 100,000 in car expense. So about 600,000 we cut.
I just gotta speak a little bit on, if I can. We always talk about one-time expenses, right? They're taboo. We know that for budgeting. But over the years,
Using one-time revenue.
yeah, one-time revenue, but over the years, we've one-timed purchases for many years to the tune of about $2.5 million in real estate. One was when we were being sued over Jacobs Bluff, 500,000. We acquired the hospital property. We've got Maple Street with 12 lots over there for sewer extensions. We've bought these properties, and those revenues, we do have a realtor working on those right now. I mean, that's something that, when we talk about all this, and when we were doing well, we bought a lot of things, because they made sense at the time. Some we just inherited. Also, the timber revenue has always been part of a supplement of this budget, always has been. It used to supplement the water years ago. And I know that to be a fact, hold on, and I know that to be a fact in history. And you're talking about what it cost our citizens. And I'm telling you, no, it didn't, Steve Toski. I'm third generation here to live here. I'm telling you, it didn't cost our citizens that. We had industry, and we also had a timber, a big watershed that we utilized to supplement rates. Okay, that's old school.
Sale of surplus.
Things have changed. Things have changed.
Timbers, we're cutting.
And we do have a managed forest that does give us cuts every so many years. I don't want this to sound like this is a fire station, because this is not a fire station budget issue. This is not. Absolutely.
We're short of building inspector.
I have been sitting here, yes, but I have been sitting here and I'm explaining to you that we have purchased in the last, since I've been mayor, $2.5 million worth of real estate. I've got over $2.5 million worth of real estate. Plus the industrial property, plus this property down here.
What do you?
Are you proposing that we sell property in order to supplement?
The one thing is, we got the hospital property that's up on the market. We got Jacobs Bluff. The infrastructure is almost in down here. We're not gonna give it away. We're not gonna give this property away.
Hey, there's sale of surplus
Okay.
property in the community
So,
development fund of 1 million.
And this is not a jab at you, Steve. Okay, this isn't. But when we wanted to sell a 58 by 100 lot just from Gracie's Annex, because there's a street just beyond that, Steve said it was worth $1 million. Okay, so this isn't a jab, but that's what I'm saying here, okay? Keep this all in perspective, okay? We're dealing with this year's budget.
Right.
And it's, people say you look at this through like rosy glasses. Because I know this to be true. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
Oh, I'm wrong?
Yes.
I'm wrong that we have properties available for sale.
Well,
And that we have timber, that can be harvested. Mr. Toski, tell me how I'm wrong.
So let's talk about the surplus property. I'm happy to talk about that. It's in our budget. We have $1 million to the community development fund, and I'm just typing surplus, okay?
For this year, yes.
Correct. Okay, so I know, and that's the only thing. So right now we have the Millard Road property up for 3.1 million.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I think we should be making commitments if we're gonna be selling that property. And it's gonna generate 3.1 million. I think we should be, all we have budgeted in our budget is 1 million. So where's the other 2 million gonna go in the event that sells for 3 million?
You roll it over to next year's budget. And then next year,
Sell in this year's budget.
you know what?
It's going to sell in this year's budget, right? It's
Yeah,
gonna
it's
sell.
Rollover,
It
that's
could,
pro.
yeah.
It will, by the time it closes, it will close in the 24-25 budget, right?
And again,
Things will be adopted in June.
the administrative fee is for the urban renewals is interjected into this budget.
Where's the other 2 million gonna go? That's the question.
Right.
We're saying we're gonna sell 3 million in property, 1 million is going to community development. Why not put another million into the general fund? Commit to that. It will help pay our police. You know, maybe we can get another building inspector. I mean, why not put that commitment in there? I mean, okay, you don't wanna raise the taxes. There's another 2 million in property. We've got 1 million budgeted.
It's not.
Property, sell
Well, keep going on the market.
it. Doesn't mean it sells.
It should be in the budget. That's all.
That, but also
Somewhere. We should be saying where it should go.
line for urban renewal, and we don't wanna blow it.
The levy then, so put it somewhere.
But it would be something down the road. That could be implemented. Another revenue. stream.
It is potential.
Yeah, we have.
Right.
That's
They're
not,
going to, there has to be.
if that mill though, if
I mean,
that's.
He just wants to be able to decide how
Expect the same type of revenue.
That's correct. Exactly. I think that's what our role is here is to manage.
do it next year too.
Yes.
That would probably close after.
It's not me that wants to do it.
I don't know where we're at in it,
This is a,
but
this is
That's
a work
strong.
session among the operational, we're trying to look out for our people's money.
Well,
Yes.
maybe a work session for next year too.
But even though.
We are next year, 24-25.
And do 25 that money yet.
So these are,
No.
it is not money in the bank, and that's correct, and we have the budget this year, but I just wanted to throw that out there because, I mean, John, I want to talk a little bit about it. I know you don't like me trying to do that, but you know what? That's the bottom line is I don't want to increase livability in our city and pin people when we got all this. We got timber revenue, we've got properties that are up for sale, we got more property for sale.
Put it in there then. Well, we only have 1 million.
When you really talk about the 2.5 million we've bought, and since I've been here, then you talk about the 3 million you bought on this, and then the 3 million you bought on the industrial site, that's $8.5 million.
What's for sale, John?
Currently for sale,
I
that's
mean,
properties with you.
Let's
We have
be real.
Million Millard, what's the other one?
The bought property on 10th. Jacob's Bluff,
Yeah,
about 4 acres.
Oh, yeah.
it could be really nice.
Rocky Hill,
For 900.
Rocky
It
Hill.
probably won't sell for that, realistically, probably 7. I
It's a
mean,
nice view property, if anybody's listening.
Clark will go for 3 though.
I do,
It has a view of the whole city.
It has an appraisal on it.
yep.
We're talking revenue for next year of those properties, if they sell.
Yeah, and then, I mean,
This year.
we're looking at, I know we're.
526. So we can put them in our budget.
It's,
If they sell, they're in.
I forget what it's called, mixed use.
I mean, we put it, now's the time to put them in. Now, then there's a commitment to, that if we get them, look, our budget is, we have people saying we are down people. Our union has come forward and said, we are down sewage. People are supposed to be looking over our sewer. We're on the edge of having the DEQ have a problem. We have our police coming forward and saying, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And so why not put in the budget? I'm just saying, pay people. Make our city run, okay? I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. Stosky, that's why I brought it up.
Put it in the budget. Why don't we put in there, we got 1 million in community development. And if we put in, then we put another, why don't we just put another 1 million in the general fund? And 2 million in the general fund.
Why don't we just be modest and put 1 million in, because we,
Right. So 1 million to community development, 1 million to the general fund.
I mean, kind of the idea with that hospital property, and just what we've been thinking was that, we inherited, about 1/3 of that from the hospital, okay? We have always anticipated it's about $3 million in value. Was to put that into a park and buy the school district property out there by Ross Road, which is supposed to be dedicated as the Dahlgren Park. And don't ever forget that is Dahlgren Park, it was supposed to be there at Millard Road. He donated some properties. They did a swap with the hospital, the school district. But to take the $1 million, like Jessica was saying, that's why we bought Maple Street, so we can get water and sewer and build a sports complex. That was really nice, and it's drawn up, right next to the Grace Baptist Church, who's also would share the parking lot and has a bunch of, easements that. And it would even tap into our sewer, if we ran it up there too, so I just wanna throw that out there, but that's why I'm saying. That still should be dedicated to that million. I mean, so basically 2 million, I think personally, doesn't have to, we're a budget committee, but. I think $1 million of that 3 million should go to what its intended purpose was to buy the 10 acres,
Ross Road.
the sports complex.
It's Eric Dahlgren.
Yeah, Eric Sullivan.
Wait, so I'm sorry, I'm getting behind. So are we talking about buying property now?
Well, it's the one missing piece, Steve, that's it.
And then how much is that one?
We don't even know.
You know what?
No, we're not.
I don't wanna make, I mean, I
No, that doesn't have to happen right now. It's the school district's property. It's secure. I'm sure we'll get first right of refusal. So that's not, I just brought it up because I didn't want.
add a line, can we add a line, sale of surplus property to the general fund? There's already $500,000 for the timber, we add another 1 million.
There's already sales surplus.
1 million, $500,000, which is timber, which we covered in the last meeting.
And we reiterated that it wasn't double allocated this one.
Yeah, we for sure got that one down. And so,
I think we should.
all right,
I seriously think we should. That's just me. You know what?
So we have 500,000 in there right now, okay? So are you proposing to add another million, so for 1.5?
let's hope it sells.
Well, and that's the challenge of non-recurring revenues, is that we create.
Well, we're
these-
already going down that road, right?
Yeah.
We create
Yeah.
these.
If we does sell, if it does sell,
Then it compounds itself.
I'm trying to cover what we're giving our police. Because our police, we have a contract with them. And,
Not only that, we brought up a good point. Public Works has lost 5 different positions.
Mohammed said he has revenues. Is that not correct, John? I mean, Mohammed said he could fill his positions. He has enough money. Is that incorrect?
Well, the revenues that pay for staff also pay for capital projects. We have a lot of capital projects that are getting very expensive, and it's a balance.
I'm concerned about the street fund, the sewer fund, because it looks dismal in the next couple years.
What's your thought on how we could get Mohammed, somebody to at least watch over our sewer system 24/7? We have 3 people watching a 24-hour operation right now.
And he's restructured the water quality program to have water and wastewater together, so they're operating a lot more
Just
efficient.
asking if you have an idea where revenues can come from.
Comes from rates.
It's rates, yeah.
God,
So, but
been shot full of holes twice on that.
if we put it in the general fund, that gives us a little more flexibility with it,
For what?
the $1 million.
Yes, and
Right.
so that's,
The direction of the council to,
so up on the screen now is the effect of adding additional one-time revenues.
We're gonna cut anything the police ask for, that's the question.
First on Gloria, so you put the $1 million in, but you took the police budget back to what it was
Yes.
originally? Okay.
You wanna cut anything? Anything?
Why would we do that? We're asking for a levy that.
Just because to say no.
That's a real good reason. I think you just got a lot of brownie points right there, Mr. Bosky. I redact that. You know what redacting means? You know what redacting means? You're a lawyer. I would do that immediately.
Well, honestly, I think we need to put it this way, I'm already on the record saying, and Mayor, you heard me. Because you're gonna be in the driver's seat along with the rest of the council, that be prepared for negotiations next year. There was a lot of discussions about that, and so.
they're already talking.
The other position that I was just curious about too, like, is, and I don't know much about it, but the other IT
Yeah.
position. That one kind of bothers me just in general because we have one person running the city, so I don't know what the committee is. I don't really know this individual. I mean, I actually don't know the person that's,
Derek,
Matt. Matt. But what will happen if we go down to one person? Can we really sustain with one? I just wanted to bring that up.
We feel as we're talking.
Well, we don't just have two IT people, we
We
have
have-
a contract with More Power that does all of the
Backup.
the backup stuff, so
Yeah.
the kinds of work that the two are doing is
The couple more power?
Yes, yeah,
IT services.
they service like city of a bunch of different cities.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we got 300,000 overtime. I gotta think there's something in there that I think there's a savings the chief can find somewhere. Think about it. There's a lot of 300 grand overtime. We're on 500. We're on pace for $500,000 in overtime this year, this budget year. Or next year, they want $500,000. You know,
See, their officers are out, they have to have officers on road, so how are you gonna have those?
You know, I think that if we say so, the chief will find a way, but I definitely believe without a doubt. We need somebody very sharp to come in here and analyze our police situation so that we have answers to statements like that are quite accurate.
You would like to say.
I agree.
So.
We're just coming back to talking about being ready for the arguments that come up.
Why wouldn't you just cut across the board? Why would you just cut from every single?
It's the only department that really we have with it, because the only department we have trouble with is our general fund. Because that is the department that we are supposed to have recurring revenues paid for recurring expenses. And we have bought things we cannot afford. The other funds are fine. And what's happening is that we're shorting our employees on the other funds because we're spending money doing capital improvement projects. That's why we're down 4 people in public works.
Doesn't that come out of the utility? Like,
Yeah,
like,
so-
like we're talking about,
Yeah,
like,
so-
we're mixing chocolate and
Yeah.
peanut butter here.
Right.
Usually
You're right.
So our focus needs to be on the general fund. And the fund has these departments. So to Jennifer Massey's question, what if we cut every department 10%? I would just say that we have, most of the departments in the general fund have cut already.
They all have cut. And the only department that's asking for more is the police. And they want more cars, they want more brand new cars, they want more gas. They wanna drive their cars to and from wherever they are. They complain that they don't wanna change in the whatever, I mean, you know.
See, you run on our.
Yeah, did you do that? You got asked.
Um,
Did you take a tour?
I've seen the building. What difference does it make?
They can't change their clothes, there's not enough.
There's a whole nother building they haven't
You
utilized.
mean in the flood zone where like we have a lubricant complaint because it's in the 100-year floodplain?
You know, that's a snide comment and inappropriate.
That's totally a side
You know what?
comment.
So just let's make sure we understand, for everybody watching,
That's nice.
that tomorrow, start building the police station in the Holton.
I'm just,
You know,
just saying, I was.
it's not my fault the city decided to build a police station where it's illegal.
Complaint too, because you don't want it in a 500 and then you want them to go.
That's a cute statement. The fact of the matter is, you know, if you understood really what that building is, it is a non-critical facility that they absolutely.
Okay, so we-
could use- no, excuse me, that they absolutely could use for changing. They can. All they have to do is put their locker rooms in it.
There's a flood and they can't access
You
it.
know what? Guess what? They can change it home. You know what? I can tell you this, highest paid in the state,
They're,
highest paid in the state.
I'd like you to redact that when you're wrong. Yeah, you're acting, this is ignorant. You're acting ignorant by making statements like that.
ZipRecruiter is not a good source.
Not talk about the recruiter. It's making a fool out of it.
It's a total.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get
Not for you, because as a lawyer, you should know better.
I don't know.
back to it.
I just Googled
That's
police
fair.
pay in Oregon and boom, we came up as number
Sorry,
one.
but I'm just that's
okay.
embarrassing.
So back at budget. All things budget.
Yeah.
All right,
So right now, we've interjected $1 million into it. Okay?
Right.
We know the police has been increased 400. I think Public Works is gonna have some flexibility that the city council can move forward with those positions. And potentially help out where it needs, where it sees the needs. If IT becomes an issue, we have that. We have the ability to direct that. You know, ARPA funding really did not do us any favors. It was free money from the government. I'll tell you guys that right now.
And had stipulations about how you spend it.
Yeah.
No.
So.
Gloria, could you give us a review?
Are still sufficient.
So,
And
Gloria, give us a review on what departments are under the general fund. Quick review.
okay, sure. So, glasses, no glasses, so administration department. This is HR and city recorders. City council. Municipal court. Police.
Back to municipal court. Really quick.
Sure.
that used to be a lot worse. They've done some fabulous work over there. Courts cost a lot of money. They just do.
Food costs a lot of money.
I was just looking, like, in there is also the revenues for like tickets and things like that. So
Okay, so we can look at the revenue.
That was
I
it for,
can see that going down.
was it for the general fund?
I was asking about
So
like.
here's
Courts are gonna
revenue.
state, and then we a small little bit.
It's a little bit of reimbursement and then there's
Over fine.
funds. Okay, so back here, we've got library,
I think that was a good mix of.
we've got finance,
Are we hiring a new position for First Mark?
No,
No,
it's.
it's a
split. We
combined.
split one position, the librarian or youth librarian and that.
this is parks. They are also losing a ARPA position,
Yeah.
ARPA funded position. This is
You also
recreation.
Listed all of that spreadsheet, that Excel spreadsheet, the workbook you sent over from all the breakdown from that, right?
Yes.
Technology.
Right, yeah. Okay, there's planning. Building. There's technology. And then there's general services. Yeah, we did that. So
So
those are all the funds of the general fund.
7 different funds. Okay.
So in this budget, the $10 water bill fee is going to go to where?
It's in the public safety facility fund. It's not in the general fund.
Thank you.
I think I think you guys have done a fabulous job. I mean, I know it's tough. I just wanna say that. You know, I mean, one person that got increases, 1% on public works and the police. All right?
So I know that the water bill is not like always a good topic, but is there an opportunity here for? To do anything with the water bill or increase revenue?
I thought we had to.
We already have
decided that.
There's already in my budget message, there's already increases in water, sewer and storm.
Yeah, but I meant the public, like to add on to the public safety.
$1 fee.
Oh, okay.
That mechanism's in place already, so
I know that
that.
that's not a good topic, but that's reoccurring revenue.
The
Even if it was small, like.
safety fee one that I put in.
You guys were talking about like staggered, so it does, it's not so impactful, but. I mean, it's a recurring revenue
Yeah.
and that's all other cities do it. And even the lawyer on this committee said it's not.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. A lot of cities do it, yes.
And not just for public safety, they do it for
A lot of
parks
different
and for
things.
streets and for recreation.
Well,
Or some of them have just a general services fee, that's just a flat amount that goes to the general.
oh, yeah, it is. Okay.
I don't want any more. Well, it's an idea. I mean,
But that's a good point, because
it's the one.
we were gonna explore what happens if the levy doesn't pass, but I believe we already voted on and discussed that it was going to go water. For the funding.
No, I think the understanding is that right now, We have not said it, but if the levy does not pass, we will not hire the new officers.
No, we voted,
Jeez,
they voted and said they would go.
I'm having a terrible time seeing the screen.
I can't.
And that's an unfunded 800,000.
So I know this is really hard to read.
I think it's been adopted.
Right, I didn't think so, so.
So right now, we're at $10, okay? So this is what it looks like.
It's 720,000 a year for $10.
Yep.
You,
So at $10 in our first year, we had an extra $190,000 after we paid the debt service, okay? So if we increase this, say, what would you like to see?
well, I don't think that Jennifer is suggesting that we increase it to go to the public safety fund, that I believe the suggestion is that $10 will go to.
Yes, but this is how, what would show what would be extra after we pay the debt service. Okay,
So it'd be 720,000 a year. If we added another 10.
let's make it 20 and see how that looks.
That's 1 point.
And I honestly can't see this. so.
720 and we
We're
double
gonna
it.
have
It's
glasses again.
1.522.
Okay, so this would be for 2025,
This year.
and that would be for, so this is consecutive fiscal years here. Okay, so for fiscal year 2025, it would add an additional 195,000, okay? That could go to the general fund for police services or.
195?
Why wouldn't it be? Why would it be
700
720? Why would it be? 'Cause you said $10, 720 a year.
So here's $10.
Right.
Right? Oh, okay, something's not working.
Yeah, something's not working right, because it was.
Okay, you're right,
Because
something's not
it should
working
just
in my
double,
spreadsheet.
you're right, I mean, it's simple math, he's right, right here.
Yeah.
The 720, you know,
It means complicated math.
so it should be, yeah, 720, Steve, yeah.
So
Yeah.
7.
Okay, so my spreadsheet's not working.
Police officer.
Pardon me?
That, the column that you're highlighting.
Yeah, I know.
Police, so it wouldn't be
Yeah.
affected.
No, this is
Annual revenue, go left.
not
Yeah,
working.
you're in the wrong column.
Yeah, annual revenue is 761,160.
One more to the right.
Oh, there, okay.
So if you go to 20, it's 1.552.
Thank you.
1.522. There you go.
About half of that's going to the public safety.
No, that's in addition to the 10 that we're already paying in the public.
Oh, so it's, oh, I see, so it'd be the 30, plus 20,
Plan with
Yeah, yeah.
the numbers.
and plus 20.
This is a recurring revenue stream versus a one-time.
Correct. That would free up some of the other money, by the way, like the interest money or the timber money. So so right now, if we said or recommended for the council to go 20 there, then that would free up. We got $1 million in interest on our funds that we could use someplace else, and we got $500,000 in timber
Yeah.
someplace else.
It's so hard, I can't see it well enough that,
I think, I mean, that's something like I said, we haven't adopted anything, that's something, again, we have a mechanism of having a pulse on.
so my spreadsheet's
You
not working.
want to make the recommendation, Jennifer?
What?
No, I have questions, but I'm not getting an answer. So we've discussed the levy. And then if the levy doesn't pass, I have to figure out a way to fund it. And my understanding originally, we had told them, you guys voted on, that, you would go to the water bill.
We didn't, we left that as an open question. We did not say that, no, this is what we're going to do. That's, would be a mechanism to, if the levy doesn't pass, that would be a mechanism to be
So
able
the
to
vote is basically-
utilize in order to pay for the.
So the vote
district.
would be, if the levy doesn't pass, you're still gonna pay $100,000.
No,
No,
no, that's up to you, that's up to the budget
talk
committee
to the rest of the council about
to
that.
decide how that.
What I remember about that meeting was that they were asking, would you support that a $25 increase is what I heard at the time. And I was very vocal and said, that's $300 a month, like Mr. Toski was talking about the 240 to the people who own properties. I think is absurd, let alone for the little lady who's trying to make her income, make ends meet. 300 a year is a lot of money, and I was very vocal on that. At the time, but we did not, you guys agreed, the council, except for me, agreed to, propose the idea of that they would be in favor of that if a levy didn't pass.
I feel like Mark was on, I think, the levy idea and then said, if it doesn't, we'll go to water bill. I'm pretty certain that's what we voted on. So I'm just.
That was not a vote.
We're talking about. adding some-
I don't think that was a vote, I think that was more of a census pulse of.
Right.
Because there was no, it would have to be an ordinance, it would have to be something that came in a packet, legal, that would be public hearing, yep, public comment, and
Right,
then,
but what I'm saying is.
so. So nothing, what I'm saying is, even though that the census is that the council said they would, that it's not guaranteed,
Okay, so if.
because there's a
then-
process.
Since we're putting in the budget, the sales, where it'd be, is it just gone?
That's the question to you, the committee. Do you want to increase the fee in order to replace what the levy would do?
Can we do that? Can we do a hypothetical?
You can make a recommendation like you have the whole time
Right.
with the water,
I'll
or
make that recommendation. I think we need to, honestly, I think that, honestly, the thing is this, I think our people need to really start paying attention to how much we are paying for police services. And I think this is a good discussion for people to have, and I think I frankly like the idea of things going to a vote.
So what's the recommendation then, if the levy fails, or we're looking at adding it, fails that recommendation, that's what the budget committee is suggesting?
Yes, that would be my recommend, well, you know, I want to hear from everybody else. What's everybody else think about
That's
it?
just for the police shortage. We still have $1.5 million in the general fund.
Well, we added $100, we added $1 million for our property sales, which we hope we'll do. We've got the $1 million hopefully coming in from the interest and 500 from the timber.
yeah.
So if all of those ships line up, we should be able to be okay.
Yep.
And then if the levy passes, then we'll have enough to do the other offices. And then if it doesn't pass, then the question is, well, right now, I think it'd be, those 4 officers would be not, that would be cut, right? That would be out of the budget. Am I correct there?
That's correct. Yeah.
So they'd be unappropriated. So then the question that,
Which would be new hires, I mean, we're not cutting, but just so people know that are listening, we're not cutting police officers, we're not firing people.
right, we're not gonna hire 4 new.
Yes, okay, yes, I mean, you made it sound like a cut though, I'm like, oh no, this isn't.
Right,
Yeah.
we're hiring because the chief says that we need to get people in the pipeline. And some of the other stuff, I saw that frankly, the numbers that are being suggested, I mean, online, accurate or not, 27 for the size of this town we are in is about right. So, I mean, I think that the fact that we are adding staff, from what I can see online, accurate or not, is correct. And so, I think that we do need to plan for the future. And so the question is, if the levy doesn't pass, I want to hear dialogue on it, what people's thoughts are before, unless somebody wants to make a motion.
I mean. Sense that they're.
I don't like fees, but I believe I would be correct in saying that the public service fee, like if it's out of the water bill, we get more of that money than if we get a levy, right? I mean, that's just the reality of it. We get more of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't like fees, but I also appreciate the fact that it's by EDU. So it's more, yeah, everybody participating, but we don't have a vote.
Yeah, we'll be one for.
The difference is also the people have a say.
Right.
And that's something that we have to consider.
Yeah, maybe what we should say is. Maybe we should go with the process that if the people say no to the levy, first of all, I think the information needs to get out to the people about why. It's being asked for. There are some definitely. People don't know yet. I'm not sure if it's the right public approach to say. If you say no to this levy, we're gonna tax you anyway. I'm not sure if that's the right message. I think maybe the right message may be. If you say no to this levy, then the council's gonna discuss what to do next. And we're gonna have a public discussion. And there are other opportunities for other levies in September and I believe in November, am I correct?
Well, that's kind of already been what our gist is of the council, from my understanding.
So what we're asking from people that own a $300,000 home or 350 is roughly about $450 a year. Okay, on a 69 cent, 350 is a little lower income people that own that's a modest home, very modest.
I'm on record in favor of the levy and I think maybe what we should do is have a show of hands here. Of the budget committee, who is in favor of the levy. I think that would be a good thing for our people to see, the people who have come here and had spent hours and hours studying this thing. What is our commitment?
I think that we've done a dismal job at getting the levy out and communicating. There's 3 other ones on the ballot, like, I think that's probably, I want it to pass. I think that it's a great thing for people that have votes, but I mean, I think if you ask several people right now, they thought that the sheriff levy was St. Helens, like.
Well, that's because people don't understand police jurisdictions or the jail or any of that.
Exactly, so now, there's not been good publication or communication, and now we're up against it on this levy, so what do you expect this?
It takes months to campaign.
I think if we're, election strategist, I think if we tell people. You're gonna get taxed no matter what, they're not gonna be happy at all, so I think we give them the choice, and then if they reject it, we move on from there.
It is important to note, though, how, in my opinion, as a city councilor, how the budget committee feels about backup solutions, because there is a good chance that we're gonna have to come up with that. So I would love to hear ideas or how these people in this room feel about.
And I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about that and you always have the water bill,
I will
always have that. But I've also, heard enough from Mr. Koski and I'm in his shoes. That I think there needs to be accountability too. So show me. I mean, we're here crunching our budget. Okay, we are absolutely crunching our budget. Show me where. And I'll come back to this because I had a meeting and I've tried talking personally and I want to see where how your scheduling is. I want to see the spending. I want to look at all that. I want to see it. I think there's room for improvement there. Meet us halfway. That's all I was asking. That's all I was asking was to meet halfway. And I thought that's what we were meeting about. Well, I'm just throwing it, not us.
Yeah, what do we have, what are we talking about?
The police funding, the police funding, the police funding, I think needs to be, there needs to be also some accountability and some transparency as well with, let's look at scheduling, let's do, cause I think there's room for improvement there. And I was told there absolutely wasn't, and that's ridiculous because we as a group have done a lot of improvements. I was by myself, couldn't collectively have done it, but us as a group have done it. That's all I'm trying to say.
What's your question, Jessica? You started saying something.
Does that make sense?
I think she wanted to.
Does that make sense, though?
So is anybody going to make a motion on the service fee, or is there some other ideas that you want to make a motion on? where do we go from
Make
here?
a motion then.
Okay.
Say that again.
A motion that it goes to the utility fees if the water bill, levy doesn't pass.
$10.
Because I'm frankly tired of talking about trying to fund them and stuff, and you'll just. Get that out of the way. I don't remember what this one is.
720 per 10,000, for $10, 720,000, 720,000 for $10. So $15 would be just over $1 million. $20 is
I
1.5.
think we originally talked to $15, which will cover stuff.
An additional $15 and put the fee at 25.
Yeah.
That sounds right. If I could get my spreadsheet to work.
Did you enable content on top?
This is a different sheet, yeah.
It's a pivot table though, right?
The one that I had up, I closed it.
Oh.
It just wasn't working. I can't see it well enough to get it to work right.
What I would like to, I guess there's no second, but I would like to comment on that. First of all, I think that's a good motion. I'm a little hesitant because I am thinking it might actually cause more defeat of the levy. But I do believe what Ms. Gilbert says, and that is we definitely should be putting something out there on recurring revenues, so second that motion, but I do, we're children wanting to move the nation, and I do think that we should be moving toward recurring revenues.
I'll second it.
Well, and I would like to see how everyone else feels in this room. There are a lot of people sitting at this table that aren't speaking.
That was your question earlier.
Yes.
Forgot, that's why I was asking.
Well, it's important to me to see, what everyone else thinks in this room. Because this is a hard decision that's gonna come on this council's shoulders. And that's why we have a budget committee.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I'm sorry about that. Originally, it was gonna be fair to people more than the levy. It was gonna fund more. I think we were on the track of doing the water bill, even though, there was some question about it, and then somebody rushed in and did a levy. So now we have this levy out there. And yeah, it's going to give it to the voters, but at the same time, we're kind of an emergency there. We don't have it.
John, are we gonna be at risk of, are we in an emergency are we gonna be at risk of if we have to hold tight and wait for the property to sell, wait for these other revenues to come in?
Well, that's
No, I'm talking about
that's part of the equation here is we don't want to use all of our one-time revenues, 100% of them. We do have some needs to fill, do transfers. But one thing I wanted to bring up is we're talking about the police, public safety, this general fund generally have all shares the same revenue. And the city of Albany recently did a city services fee, which kind of blanketed. They have low tax rate, they just couldn't get it done. They put a $9 on the city services. We're calling it the water bill, but they call it the city services bill. That's been a pretty substantial revenue source for them. It's all the same, it's still money on bill. And whether that's voter approved or whether that's done legislatively, that's kind of the
But
conversation.
that allows you to spend it elsewhere, where if you
All
designate,
general fund.
yeah, but if you designate the public safety fee on the water bill, it can only be used for that. So I think that gets into a little bit of probably uncertainty for people that, like, if it goes into that fee, it can be used anywhere in the general fund versus to what it specifically, I wouldn't be comfortable with that piece of it, because that just could go wherever else, right? So.
Square one.
Well,
Yeah.
just the flip side of that, I'm not trying to play devil's advocate, but I do see people saying there's flexibility. And also kind of so there is some flexibility in it. And so for bargaining, if you lock the fee up for one department, they kind of, okay, we got this, so.
Well, I think we had discussed the sunset.
There has been discussion about that. You could certainly,
Where we hope that once industry comes in.
right, right. And that would be something that the that the governing body, the council would,
Can do at any
you
time.
know,
At any
could. You know, if you say, hey, council, we want to increase the fee to whatever, and make it a sunset clause. And then they work it in that way, so that there is a sunset clause. And yes, there could be even some stated mechanism for if industry comes in sooner than the sunset clause expires, then they can back up and say, okay, we're in a better place now, we can start decreasing that fee.
Councilor Chilton's comment about, want to hear from everybody here? Really haven't spoken much. One, I guess we have two questions on the table, the general budget with the anticipated revenue, and then the additional fee if the levy doesn't pass.
I'm confused on that. I thought there was a motion that was made.
Yeah, there was.
Motion and a second
Thank you.
Motion
on the fee increase.
make that motion again.
But she was asking for comment because the motion was made, so it's discussion period right now, and I think you started to allude to, like maybe Ivan or Mark
Ivan,
or.
Come on, Ivan.
Yeah, you know, I
I
mean,
wanna hear from you.
no right or wrong answer, just.
I think if the levy doesn't pass.
Yeah.
Because people of St. Helens don't want to have former cops. So if we go around and charge $15 more for that, it's kind of going in the face of that. I can't support that. Maybe if we do for one more police officer, and it wouldn't be contradictory to the will of the people. But I can't do for four.
I like
police
the
officers.
$5 for 5-0.
Respect your opinion.
I think that's legitimate. I think that is. I mean, that's maybe one or two more. We've already.
Well,
But that doesn't
Lou, what do
bring
you
us
think? Oh, sorry.
I mean, funding and all that, we're still like.
It should still be what, 22 officers probably with, $5 would be another officer and a
I
half.
think it's I respect it too, and I actually. appreciate that.
$360,000. $5 would be-
Crossing over the line already, right? So do you just rip off the Band-Aid and get it done, and then overtime would come down with the 4 people? So it's like, it feels like it's an flow here that we have going on, so.
I'm with
Either
you
you do
though.
it or you don't.
And it doesn't have to be permanent, like Gordon said.
2-year deal, sunset? 2 years?
We've been
I
in
don't know.
our industry, I mean. we could say that.
I mean, this is all stuff that's gonna be read and adopted by the council. I mean, you guys are making a recommendation.
Okay, so we don't need to.
Yeah, you don't need to get out of the weeds. You're not,
His thoughts
We're
about
trying to
it.
make your job easier, so when you do put it out there, you get lambasted from all the public comments, that you can come back and blame this budget committee, that this is what we.
what do you?
I'm just gonna say that you guys were also accountable.
Yeah.
I know we're gonna blame, different wording there, but.
What about you, Lou? What about you?
I agree with generally the Jennifer's motion, but I don't want to put a hard $20. I think we recommend that the council comes up with another way to fund the police. That's what it comes to.
I thought the motion was for 15.
It's 15.
Whatever happens, people need to understand there's consequences, so that if we don't do this, this is what it's gonna look
Maybe
like.
cutting 24-hour police, that may be the compromise. And that's a true consideration that we have to make.
And that's a cost that people possibly lose property crimes.
And people voting probably aren't aware of that.
Yeah, we didn't have, I mean, if we had that to get.
The village pamphlet came out, if anybody reads that.
Yeah, I read it.
Actually,
I looked at it. I thought it was pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
We need police. We don't have enough, but I don't know.
I think it's a good discussion. I think this is great.
so we have a motion on the floor.
I seconded it already a long time ago.
We were discussing, are we ready to
We
vote?
have it just restated. What I heard was, in the event the levy does not pass, that $15 will go on the water bill for hiring police. That was the motion, as did I say it correctly?
Recommendation.
Yeah.
A recommendation, yes, for the council to consider that.
This doesn't have the authority to do that.
Okay. Jennifer seconded it. All in favor of that, of the motion, signify by aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Do around the table,
Well, then I hear three.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, I was a nay because I like the idea, but I don't like the dollar amount.
Renee, I thought you suggested it before Jennifer brought it up.
No, it was
Oh,
5
you
minutes.
did.
It was 5 minutes ago.
Totally did.
so,
Okay, so there's.
Jump that ship real quick.
Right,
let's raise our hands. All those approved, raise your hand.
No.
2, 4, 5. All those opposed?
okay, so it doesn't pass.
6 to 4. This
Okay,
passed.
does it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Authority.
for some
Majority.
reason I think it's 7, okay.
Yeah.
Great job, Gloria.
I think we can get this thing approved. I mean, we're right at the end of this. I mean.
Are we in a place to approve the budget?
we're close.
We have to have a public comment question session, Gloria.
We did that last meeting.
Does this give us wiggle room for some of the public works?
Pardon me?
Does this give us wiggle room to bring back a couple of the public?
So for the public works, you could say, let's add such and such a dollars for into so they're not in the general fund for starters.
Yeah.
They do have enough money, but the public works director tries to be very, very conservative in
Yes.
support of all, the city as a whole. He has indicated that he doesn't need those people right now, that he can get by with what he's got. So,
It kind of, I mean, I'm liaison over him. He would love to have a couple, an engineer
we would
back.
love to have an engineer, so.
I went to
There is
public
a lot.
works myself and they are also missing those staff,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I mean, the engineers, because we're doing a lot of on-site, on-the-fly, designs with all this construction going on,
So like,
so.
I obviously come from a construction background as a pipe fitter, so infrastructure and public safety are like those really important, right? Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
if we for utilities and sewer and all those things, if they're not maintained and fixed in a timely manner, it is catastrophic and extremely expensive to fix those. So Mayor, can you talk, if you're the liaison, can you talk a little bit more about like that piece of it and how many, again, are we looking, is Mohammed looking to lose out of that department?
Okay, so he's gonna be losing, and
So he hasn't
he has a lot,
okay,
he
there's
hasn't hired.
unfilled
Yeah,
positions.
he hasn't hired.
Hasn't filled.
Unfilled position, so he has an engineer. He was also in charge of IT. We have. Yeah, but that's not public work, what?
That's general fund.
Okay, Jonathan. Okay, he is also one chair on the wastewater treatment facility. Go ahead.
There's 5 positions altogether unfilled in public works.
Yeah.
There's operations, one
Engineering,
in engineering.
Yep.
And then water treatment plant and water.
yes,
Yes,
filtration system,
yes,
yeah,
Which is what you're saying.
right.
yeah,
So
yeah,
really, I think probably essentially,
the
he
two,
would most like to have
the
is
engineer,
the engineer replaced or back into the budget. And 2 in the wastewater treatment
the-
plant.
those
water-
two are vital, I think those two.
Right,
Fine.
so what your motion could be is to add those positions back in. And
Sorry.
we would do those calculations.
Okay, sorry, I was yammering too
So
long.
what you could do is make a motion to add those positions back in. And then we would do the calculations for the,
Rate increases.
I think we're looking at number 2 as a motion, adding those, and I think we've got to discuss, or not discuss, but add the revenue, the one-time revenue, we're putting to the general fund.
I think we were already through that, aren't we?
What is that? I'm saying in the motion.
Yeah, Now, what,
Put that in the motion, that we're including these into the budget.
So let's kind of compartmentalize things.
Yeah.
I think that there still is not a motion for the one-time revenue increase of the $1 million for
That's correct.
sale of services.
Yeah, there was not.
There was never a motion
Okay.
or anything on
Couldn't
that.
that be put in our general, approve the budget and have that included in there, the one-time revenue?
Yes,
we
Yes,
absolutely
that could
could,
be.
that would be,
that
because that
could
would,
be in the motion,
yeah, and we could have the flexibility, yes.
right?
Okay, we have to add that, and then we have to add what you brought up.
Excessive use fee. And we also, are you talking about that one or?
We already voted on that one.
By the way, you already have an ordinance for that, but that's.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the one-time revenue, the purchase or the sale of property of 1 million into the general fund to support also and add the engineer and wastewater water filtration 2 positions.
So 3 positions altogether,
Um,
engineer and
Yeah, he was down those 2. He said there was 3 at one of them. I forget which one. I think that's,
there's 5 altogether,
okay.
so
So
you're
3 of the
proposing to
5,
add back 3.
yes.
Was that, I'm sorry, can I get clarification on that? So
He is an engineer, a water treatment, a wastewater treatment person, and a water filtration system
I
person.
thought a million's in the general fund and then what goes in the enterprise fund or for public works, what would that be? What would? I'm a little confused.
Yeah, so the enterprise fund, could that fund some of these positions still?
The enterprise funds will fund those. That's
Okay,
not in the general fund.
okay. No, but the engineer. So
The
this
engineer is in,
The general fund?
in public works. It's not in,
Okay,
So we don't
So
have
what-
anybody in general fund right now.
no, in that, for public works, no.
Okay.
It's part of his.
We're adding it.
we have to have the money from somewhere.
Rate increase.
They have enough in reserves, I believe.
It's just not.
Yeah, right.
So that, just to be clear, when I heard earlier, you said engineer IT was, but that's not. Okay, so the enterprise, okay.
So clarification on the motion then, so it's 1 million in surplus property, the real estate sale, will go into the general fund and then Norman will be authorized.
So I'm gonna redact my original motion, because nobody had seconded it.
There you go.
Retract.
So I'm going to make a motion that we just interject $1 million of one-time property sales into our general fund, which allows flexibility for all departments for the city council.
Same.
Did you have anything to add to the discussion? Did you want to say anything?
If we're bringing back people into public works, that the director should have some
Yeah.
say the priority.
Yeah.
of who's getting
That's
brought
why-
back and
that's
what
why I
their
did.
Needs are.
That's why I said it allows us to have direction.
So how about, Rick, if we make a motion as number 2 to approve the budget and include what you just included, so it's all in one motion?
Wait.
Because we have to make a motion to approve the budget.
Yeah,
No. Yeah,
I'll help you through that.
discussion on the 1 million? Is that what this is? Because we have a motion that's been made and seconded. I think you seconded it,
Yes,
Tozzy.
I did.
Okay,
Any discussion on that?
I just wanted to admit, I think this applies to that, but while I think those positions are vital, part of me is having a hard time with adding positions when we're cutting positions. That's a little bit of stuff.
We're adding 1 million in the general fund, the enterprise, those positions will be filled in the enterprise fund. So that fund, the 1 million in the general fund does not affect the enterprise fund. So, and there's no motion on the table regarding the enterprise fund or those positions.
Any other discussion?
that's what we just found out.
Okay, succinctly repeat your motion.
That we take a one-time revenue of property sales of Millard or whatever at $1 million and interject it into the general fund.
That's been seconded.
Yes, same one, right?
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Now we'll look for a motion to approve the budget.
Okay, so on this one, because we gotta get it right,
Okay.
okay? So if you're ready, if
Yeah,
you're ready,
she,
so.
no, we're not, because Jenny
I
has a.
wanted to address this letter that was sent to us about, the administrative assistant. 15 day for parks.
When we were all emailed.
Yeah. I'm not, this is my opinion. I feel like this is probably utilized and a little bit more important by what it looks like she does. And I didn't know if we could take some out of the library fund and not hire that other position there, so I don't think we can justify that for the library.
What position?
That, were they trying to hire us?
It was, she explained it.
The
Maker-
library 1/makerspace?
Yeah.
Well, we have a makerspace that's completely unutilized right now at the library. So to me, that justifies that
It's
position.
not an addition. It's not an added
No,
position.
it's the current
It just-
position that they split in half. So,
And the department head was here and could have said something about that position, did not. The administrative assistant position.
Well,
Just
we got a letter, so I just wanted.
got a letter, but the department head was here.
I just didn't want to go past it.
Those funds, both the IT and the position you referenced, right, they were funded by ARPA dollars, so they've run out of dollars.
So we got a known temporary position, basically.
That position did not exist before. And
Well, we thought COVID was gonna be around forever. It was a pandemic. We thought it was gonna be, the federal government is just gonna keep kicking us money. Yeah.
Okay, Gloria,
Knowing about this specific position that Jenny's talking about, there are significant roles that she fulfills, and then there's plans in place to who's gonna handle those.
Yeah.
Because it is, I've worked with Melissa and she does a great job. So I hope that's been considered. There's a lot to it.
Is there a way to save this position or?
Well, we do have, I mean, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but she still holds that title of, our rec person, Parks and Rec, right? So, I mean,
No, she's totally in parks now.
our rec, you mean?
Parks.
Yeah, but our Parks and Rec person originally was hired as a Parks and Rec specialist.
This position is, was hired for parks and for recreation.
Yes.
It was moved in the budget last year to 100% parks.
Yes, and what I'm coming back to is that originally we had our rec person, Donna, was
Okay,
doing both. And I think she
Right,
was still budgeted
okay.
to do that.
yeah, I don't know that. That was before me.
So it's technically a split position, and then kind of like we hired on.
Yeah, it is a lot, so maybe she can help alleviate some of that. I don't know, Brandon.
I mean.
That's
just
the one, the
Oh,
one,
just the one?
the one, yeah.
when is a position eliminated that was ARPA funded?
And we can revisit that, maybe.
2:30.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the budget then? You've already-
Now, what were you gonna say about this?
So
Okay.
if you're ready to approve, use the motion there that's written out, number 2. Because you've made amendments.
Can we just highlight all the amendments that we made just to reflect?
Sure.
Can we just, can somebody just do that to make sure?
So I've got, we will look at
Everybody listen.
service fees for calls, okay?
Sure.
That's, one thing that will go to council. And then business license for rentals, for rental unit. That ended up not being a dollar amount, but it's something that will be looked at.
Mhm.
Police fee increase to $15 additional if the levy doesn't pass. $1 million additional from surplus, sale of surplus into the general fund. Sale of surplus property. Add back the three unfilled position, or three of the unfilled positions into Public Works.
Gloria,
Yes.
there was not an official motion made on that part.
No, because we talked about the enterprise zone and that they could be filled without that.
Okay, well, I make a motion,
That was not an official motion.
make a motion that we recommend that the council considers adopting the
Could
budget.
we have that?
Fill those.
Could we have that? It could go through the enterprise and then also the general fund.
Understand.
Well,
It's still part of the budget. It's not general fund, but it's still part of the budget.
it is.
So it's
Okay.
still something that
That
you
you have to have.
you have to do as a committee.
Okay.
Establishing expenditure authority.
Okay,
Right.
so,
So we need a motion.
yes,
Make a motion
but
to
there wasn't a motion made on that exactly, right?
Yeah, you just need to actually do.
make a motion for the council to consider authorizing the filling of up to three positions in the Public Works Department.
Okay, that covers it. A second on that? Second. Any brief discussion?
I just conservatively looking at it, our public works director did not ask for those positions to be refilled, so I am not going to vote on that.
Have you talked to him? The liaison.
And he says that it is a need, but as Gloria said, he's been very conservative and has.
That's
been
why
willing to
I feel-
sacrifice temporarily.
Okay, that's why I feel comfortable about approving it because he will not spend just to spend. I can guarantee in each and every one of
He'll spend when he needs it, though.
you. So, and this allows him to.
That's just my thought.
Okay, any other brief?
So did we get a second on that?
Yeah, was seconded, we discussed.
Okay.
The motion was to add three people to the,
No, to authorize the
Authorize
filling. There are already three positions, there are already four positions potentially that can be filled, five, okay? So we're authorizing the council to consider authorizing up to three positions to be filled in the Public Works Department. That is the motion.
that was seconded. Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed?
Nay.
The motion passed.
Okay, so when you're ready to approve the budget, use number 2.
You want to read it? I got, wouldn't make my glasses.
Suppose we make, or I make the make a motion to approve the proposed budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 and appropriations as shown on fiscal year 24-25 proposed budget expenditures summary by fund as amended, and to approve levy of the city's full permanent tax rate of 1.9078 per 1,000 of assessed value for the tax year of 2024-2025. Approved levy of the operating levy for police at the rate of 0.59 per 1,000 for tax year 2024-2025, contingent on the election.
And you get that second part.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
it's
okay.
legalese.
Okay, is there a second to that? Any brief discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is approved, budget is approved. Wrap.
Thank you, everybody. You did a lot of hard work.
Thank you, everyone.
So you did a lot of real work.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you, Jamie and the rest of the staff. Thank you.
Is that your initial agreement?
Yeah, I think you are.
Okay, so reminder. So on May 16th, we're all back for the urban renewal budget. It should be very clean, cut, dry.
Not much to.
There's not much to it.
Yep.
Not controversial, I don't believe.
Taxes freeze.
I was gonna say, don't you know this group right now?
So, 6 o'clock, May 16th, urban renewal.
Thank you.
Is that just